Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Jacob Geller.
I took off my flannel. It's just stripes now.
That's right. Live with it, YouTube. We're
no
also
fashion
joined...
faux pas.
Not in this house. Not in the year 2024. Leo Vader, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You betcha. Kyle Hilliard's here, too.
Hello, hi.
And who's this walking in the door? Creak. It's Janet Garcia.
Hello.
Hey, the crowd goes wild like a Kramer entrance, but the good kind. We are covering a lot of games on this here podcast. We are going to be talking about Super Mario Party Jamboree a bit. We're going to be talking about, of course, Nikoderiko, the magical world. We'll say that name a bunch of different ways and have fun with it. Janet, do you want to talk about Life is Strange Double Exposure?
Sure.
Okay, great. We're also going to be talking about the most beautiful games of all time as a framing. Could mean a bunch of different things. Everyone has a different interpretation.
I love that you listed 3 games that we're maybe medium excited about, and then it's like, and fourth on the list, the most beautiful games of all time.
Hell yeah, and that's just going to be a bigger opportunity to talk about Super Mario Party Jamboree. No, and then we're going to be talking about Neva, the new indie game that just came out that I'm excited to talk about, and then also a game called Echo Point Nova that we can get into here with Jacob and Leo in particular. But a couple things. If you're watching this, listening to this, and saying, what's wrong with these hacks, which I understand is a frequent comment on YouTube that we get. You're saying, what's wrong with these hacks? Why aren't they talking about the big Xbox partner preview showcase? Because of scheduling conflicts, we are recording this podcast before that has happened. So we don't know what was revealed there. So apologies. We will be talking about all the fun reveals and stuff that are in that on the next episode of Bonus Pod, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast that'll be coming out next Monday. So thanks for your patience and for bearing with us on that front. Also, sorry to kick off the show with this, but we should point out that next week is MinnMax's 5th anniversary. 5 years, Kyle, if you can believe it. That is
5 years.
Take it away, Janet. But yeah,
people have gotten enough.
We're hitting 5 years next week.
Bo Burnham.
Oh, of course. So here's the thing. We are dangerously close. You've heard of dangerously cheesy. We are dangerously close to hitting 5,000 Patreon supporters. And I think it'd be cool to have the classic 5 for 5. If we can hit 5,000 Patreon supporters in honor of our 5th anniversary, we would greatly appreciate that. So if you've ever been on the fence about jumping in, you want to help celebrate our 5th year in the independent world as an independent media outlet, you want to help support it directly, you can go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you jump in this week before the end of Friday the 18th here, we will DM you on Patreon with a Steam code for Arco, the game that is quite cool, a hidden gem from 2024 that Jacob and I and Suriel talked about a couple weeks ago here on the podcast. It's sitting at overwhelmingly positive reviews, so we aren't out on a limb here. It's a cool damn game. Jacob compared it to Transistor, which is a very interesting comparison I hadn't thought of. But if you want a code for a cool game and you want to help support independent games media, jump in, support us on Patreon before the end of the week. Just a heads up, we are out of Arco codes when we hit 5,035 paid supporters. But right now, we're just right on the bubble. We're like 40 new supporters away from hitting 5,000. So if you can do that as a thank you for our 5th anniversary, we would greatly appreciate that. So if you've enjoyed the podcast recently, the Silent Hill 2 playthrough, the deepest dive on Zelda that we're doing, the MinnMax Spotlight on Panic, which we can talk about later, the celebration of Game Informer, 6 stunts, the fashion montage, the MinnMax interviews, Charles Hart making a travelogue about puking over the Grand Canyon. If any of those things struck your fancy, you can go jump in. I keep hearing from Patreon supporters that it's a lot simpler than they think. I think they're intimidated by a site they're not familiar with. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is a complete piece of cake, because I message with everybody back and forth, and everybody's always very sweet about Patreon as a service as well. So we appreciate that support. All right, here we go, everybody. Let's kick this off with the game that I think perhaps we're hottest about, which is a game that, Jacob, it seems like you have been screaming about on your own on a little island here called Echo Point Nova.
Yeah.
It looks like a first-person shooter that's fast as hell. And I was thinking about, it was a little bit like, okay, is this kind of like I Am Your Beast vibes? But then looking at it, it's like, oh, it's like open world, fast as hell first-person shooter? What the hell is this thing?
Yeah, it is. So I can't remember if it was last year or I imagine it was the year before. I was really hot on this other indie first-person shooter called Severed Steel,
Yes.
which had all the stuff that I really liked in it. It had slow-mo, it had nice feeling guns, it had like a cool aesthetic and destructible environments that were used in really interesting ways. And I was like, Severed Steel, what a cool project. And then 2 years later, Echo Point Nova is back, and it's like everything that was in Severed Steel is in Echo Point Nova, and so much more has been added that it feels like a completely different game, but with all the things that I liked from Severed Steel. This is a game where in the first 5 minutes of play, you get a hoverboard, and then you get a grappling hook, and then you get a double jump, and then you get the ability to slow down time,
Oh my
and you're
God.
destroying the environment, and it's just like, it is... My reaction has been like, oh, you actually can do all of these things. You know, like games are too scared to give you a hoverboard and grappling hook and slow motion, but they shouldn't be, because you can put them all in one game and it feels amazing.
And it kind of works. Yeah. So I was looking at the description. I think like the developer even tweeted this, where it was described as Titanfall meets Quake and, strangely enough, Shadow the Colossus. And that last one, I was like, wait, what are we talking? What are we talking? Or is this like the ruins, the environments and stuff?
The bosses are literally referred to as colossuses.
Okay.
But what is, Janet, you've brought up this game recently. What is the Heart Machine game that came out after?
Solar Ash.
Solar Ash. This is like, with all respect to that game, the cooler Solar Ash, because it is very much a movement game. It's a game in which you are like managing your momentum and like skating straight up walls and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
But where Solar Ash's gameplay was like pretty basic to the point of boredom, this is like lightning fast Doom Eternal or like Tribes or something esque first person shooting.
It looks intimidatingly fast, and the footage you're watching right now for the YouTube version is a speed run from the developer, so don't be too intimidated by it. But Leo, you're digging this too?
Definitely. It's got the vibes of like a game that a kid on a playground would pitch to his friends as like the coolest game ever, which is a compliment, because it's like no filler. You're always doing cool stuff. You have the hoverboard that is your sprint key, and you can take it up walls and stuff and jump off and do flips. Something you don't notice or take for granted in shooters is you look all the way down and you hit the limit. You look all the way up, you hit the limit. And this one, you can just keep going and you'll do like a flip. And doing those kinds of, big hoverboard jump over this robot who's got a weak point on the tippy top of its head, doing kind of a front flip, slow motion, hitting the weak point and completing the front flip and landing on your hoverboard, where your perk that gives you a speed boost for hitting the ground while you activate your hoverboard activates. It feels so good. And I love the open worldness of it too, because it's all about speed, as so many of these types of games are, and you're never really stopped. You can just keep going for miles and miles, getting faster and faster, or keep gliding around this arena in a way that feels really intuitive, and the momentum works for grinding around corners.
Right.
It's really cool to just learn and feel out.
Yeah, so the open world part of it is like, it's not something that was immediately appealing to me, because I was like, is this going to be a loot game? Is this going to be like a side quest game? But it's not really. It is really just, by the time you reach the end of like one of the modern Dooms, and you're just like, oh, this is just combat arenas separated by hallways, where it's like you just walk down a hallway and then you're in another big arena and they throw like 60 monsters at you and then the fight ends. That is kind of what this is, except all of the combat arenas are on these like floating islands set miles apart, and you can approach them in kind of any order, and you can go so fast, and you have such mobility in the air, including like literally when you get your grappling hook, it's like the grapple can attach to clouds is like one of the first things that it tells you.
Excellent.
And so you can get on your hoverboard going 100 miles an hour, go off a ramp and seemingly travel like miles in the air to some other part of the map and just do a combat arena there. And so it is all kind of doing the fun part. You never feel like you're not doing the fun part of the game.
Is there interesting context for the world? Is there stories or fiction that's kind of engaging, or is it all like gameplay?
There are characters that kind of talk to you through like hubs, but it is a gameplay game.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So is it all one seamless world, or is it like you're going around, you can go any direction you want and find these Colossus and take them down, or is it like big sequence, taking on the Colossus, moving on to the next giant open region thing?
It is one big world. It's static. It's not procedurally generated, but it is pretty difficulty gated in just like you can go to other places, but the combat gets pretty hard pretty fast. And so like I generally went in the order that the game, I think, expected me to, just because like that's what felt right.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're somewhat gated by abilities too. Like the first ability you get is being able to make your own jump pads. And there's gaps you have trouble crossing when you can't do that. And even that feels so good. It's something you throw out straight ahead of you, and you kind of get better at, as you're falling to the ground, throwing it ahead of you so you land on the surfboard and then hit it and keep your momentum going that way. You have to like plan ahead for it rather than just press a button and something happens.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so then as your reward for doing all of these open world combat arenas is like getting perks. And the perks, it does that thing where the game is very hard, but the perks feel overpowered in a good way. And so eventually something I got was like, when I jump off that jump pad, I have triple damage the whole time I'm in the air. And then when you kill an enemy while you're in the air, you get all of your jumps back, which by the end of the game, I had like 3 jumps in the air. And so I would go entire rounds like never touching the ground, just kind of like flying around these arenas. It's so cool.
It's gotta be funny for you two guys, like just coming off the deepest dive on Mirror's Edge, where it's like, you want to love it more than you do, going back to a game like that. Like, it seems so cool to have the momentum and speed. And then this game is, I understand, a very different game from Mirror's Edge, but it's still like, okay, to go from that game where you're always starting to get rolling and then you'll just slam into a wall. This one is just like, nope, keep it rolling forever. You will fly infinitely fast.
Not trying to be grounded or feel realistic, trying to feel like its own thing. And again, like a kid pitched it, like you're flying an action figure around your room. And also the other kid ideas that are ridiculous to be in a game like this. The orbs are green agility orbs from Crackdown.
Love it.
Somebody went, we should have the agility orbs from Crackdown in it, and that's what should give you agility level ups, and they're in there. And you can just burrow through the ground with your melee. For some reason, you can dig through pretty much anything. There's like voxel destruction.
Whoa.
For reasons I haven't fully grasped yet.
No,
Sometimes there's
it's used
something underground.
It's used for purposes in like 3 instances, but mostly I feel like it's so when you finish a combat arena, every part of the arena just has giant holes blasted in it, because like that's just what happens while you're fighting this like very procedural destruction.
Oh my god.
Right. And occasionally it's like I can tell there's a guy a floor beneath me, so I can hit a hole in the floor and then shoot him and stuff like that. Feels good. It's just they didn't say no to any ideas that sounded fun. That's great.
I mean, that's one way to design a game, yeah. So this is it's made by Greylock Studios, is the name of the developer, and I think it's just on Steam at this point. It's a steamy ass game. I mean, imagine mouse and keyboard is the only way to go here. Right?
Yeah, I can't imagine playing it on a controller.
Okay, yeah, we'll see eventually if they eventually port it. But yeah, overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. People that love it really love it. It's called Echo Point Nova. Jacob, you look like you're winding up for something important.
Two things. One, there's a moment at the end of this game that I will be pitching for
really
one of our best moments of the year.
Whoa!
Yeah, just
okay.
like just a great gameplay moment. 2, the big old warning: if you have ever suffered from any motion sickness playing a game, probably not the game for you. There is a reason that most games don't let you front flip in the air going 100 miles an hour.
I can't wait for the VR version.
Cowardice.
I think that's mainly
cowardice.
But if you want a shortcut, look, you can support this game. It's a cool game made by an impressive developer out there. But if you want a shortcut, you want this game for free, baby. You can compete in Trivia Tower. We should mention the next episode of Trivia Tower is happening Monday, October 21st, and we have a bunch of codes for Echo Point Nova that we're going to give away to people that make it to the 3rd floor, if you so choose it. But this Monday's episode of Trivia Tower, our game trivia show where the community gets to compete, is a special one because it is the big rematch with the only other community out there who has ever beat the MinnMax community at Trivia Tower. Normally we invite these schmucks in. We say, hey, kind of funny, come on over, this will be great. Second win, this will be a hoot. How about you kick our butt in game trivia? And then we just annihilate them. It has been
practice.
It's embarrassing on behalf of all these other outlets. Next Lander, that community was in tears thousands of people in tears, but only
And honestly,
one.
Patreon went in a free fall.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't respect these people. But only one community has ever bested us, which is the Easy Allies community. And so this Monday, October 21st at 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific, we're going to have the big rematch. So Michael Huber's going to host it. He's going to be torn in half for his allegiances because we also have Isla Hink joining on behalf of Team Easy Allies, and then Jacob Geller joining on behalf of Team MinnMax. So if you want to represent MinnMax in that community mashup, you can compete in game trivia and win a ton of great game codes. We have codes for Dead Rising, Deluxe Remaster. Also, the last 5 people in the game also get a copy of Jason Schreier's book. If you've listened to any gaming podcast on Earth over the last couple of years or weeks, surely you've heard of it. So you can get a copy of that book itself, the actual physical book, and a bunch of cool stuff. So thanks for jumping in. And also, we should mention, if you support Easy Allies at any tier, you can jump in and compete for their team. We think you're wrong, but not for supporting them, but for competing on behalf of their team. I hope that's very clear. Hey, Jacob, do you like common things or uncommon things if you had to choose?
I'm a fan of uncommon things.
Well, then, boy, do I have something for you. Uncommon Goods are supporting this episode of the podcast in a big way. They want you to know that you can spark something uncommon this holiday season with incredible hand-picked gifts from Uncommon Goods. They make holiday shopping stress-free by scouring the globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable things that everyone on your list will want. They spark joy, wonder, delight. People will say, it's exactly what I wanted. Uncommon Goods. It's a place to be. Very good. I was very happy when these folks came through as a supporter of the show, because we got some gift cards for it, and Jacob's like, I want in. And so, Jacob, go into Uncommon Goods. What nonsense did you find on their site?
Here's the thing. I already have Uncommon Goods in my house. I immediately went on their site and I was like, look, those are ramekins that are shaped like little turtles, like handmade ceramics. And immediately I clicked bought. And Annie came home yesterday and I was like, I got you a present. They're turtle ramekins. And she was thrilled. It's like, it is, especially when you have like, I don't know, parents or just adult friends where you're like, what do I get you as a present?
Yep.
You don't want like a Nerf gun anymore. And I went in here and I was like, oh, this is what I get adults as presents.
Normally I'm like, it's Nerf or nothing. But then Uncommon Goods comes around. It's like, hey, there's actually some options here now.
Now it's Nerf or Uncommon Good.
That's right. So when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists, small independent businesses, and many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. They want you to know. Yeah, delightful to cruise. They're like, okay, it's cool art of like national parks. I really like that. Ended up getting, we got some little like hangers for spider plants because we have like this weird spot in the living room. We're like, okay, perfect. Hangers for spider plants. That's what we need. And then also, I'm very excited about this. We have like a stairwell. We don't know what to put in it, but they had a magnetic stairs. They had a magnetic backgammon board. I'm like, ooh, I don't know how to play backgammon, but what if I learned it and we hung it up in the stairwell, and then it's magnet, so we can just walk by and take our turns as we're walking on the stairs every time. I'm very excited about this idea. So thanks to Uncommon Goods, and you can get 50% off your next gift. You can go to uncommongoods.com/MinnMax. That, of course, is uncommongoods.com/MinnMax for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, everybody. They are out of the ordinary. They want you to know. Check them out. There's links below for all this fun stuff. Who has been playing Neva? Raise your hand if you aren't a coward.
Only a tiny bit. I
Only
just
a tiny bit?
started it.
Okay. Kyle? Okay.
Not as much as I'd like, but I have started it, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So Neva,
Me and
this
Kyle's weak hands, half in the air.
disgusting. I've got a strong, muscular hand here that I'm raising in the air because I really, really like this game. So this is from Nomada Studios, the developers of Grease that came out a couple years ago. Jack, if you remember Grease, like one of those beautiful games ever made, do you recall that one?
I have maybe it written down on a list in Notepad on my desktop.
I don't know why that'd be coming up in a segment or two. But yeah, Neva, this is super cool. If you remember it from maybe some trailers, it's a beautiful 2D game. The art, again, is just spectacular. And the hook, if you will, this time around is you have a little dog friend. You're exploring these environments, but you have a little white dog friend that you get in the beginning of the game. And then as the game goes along, you're jumping through the seasons. And it's such a compelling, simple hook of you're going through the seasons, and every season your dog is getting bigger and bigger. It's a classic Clifford situation, Leo. Except imagine if Clifford, instead of just like I'm going to accidentally step on a doghouse. Instead, he was getting like super cool abilities that like evolved throughout the course of the game and became sick. And he could help out Emily with some sick, sweet moves, you know?
Cool. Clifford for the now generation.
That's exactly what
Yeah.
Neva was all about.
What if Clifford didn't
Move
just
over.
stand there like a jerk? You
yeah.
know?
But I was...
Over Last Guardian.
I'm curious, Janet and Kyle, what you think of this thing so far? Because starting out, it's like, well, it's beautiful, pretty simple. We're kind of running to the right in these environments. And as I keep playing, the environments get more and more wild, more creative. Like, there have been at least 3 moments so far of just making me go like, oh my God, that looks amazing. Just really bold, cool design. But yeah, where are you all at in your appreciation level for Neva yet? Have you come around the bend yet?
I mean, I don't need to come around the bend, I guess. Like, there is a simplicity to it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to hear that mechanically it sounds like it does shift and move.
It does, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, because yeah, I mean, the only reason I haven't played more is just a matter of time. Like, I was enamored with the introduction. It's really moving immediately and it looks amazing. And I was jumping around and I was like, this feels good. And then when you do get some combat, you do get a sword. I was like, okay, great. Like, this is not that I need every game to let me fight and beat things up, but like it feels so good to swing that sword. But it never gets so complicated. It's very much just like a look how beautiful this game is. So I'm excited to hear from you, Ben, that it does get mechanically more interesting. It's
it's still
great first impression, just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's still, I think, a simple game, even for where we're at. It's not going to slowly become Devil May Cry or something, but like it is suspicious in the beginning where it's like, this seems like an artsy-fartsy game, but why is the movement so tight and there's a double jump and a dash? Like, there's something that they're
like
gonna
an
be
There should be a
artsy
double
game.
jump
I
and
am
a
okay
dash
with
in every
that.
game.
I completely agree. But yeah, Janet, what do you think about Neva so far?
Yeah, even though it's funny because Kyle's like, why am I getting thrown under the bus as like a Neva hater? But I think I'm more with
Just
on
assuming
Kyle's side,
that
probably just because we're earlier in. I am excited that this is a little bit more, has a little bit more going on mechanically than Gree. Like, I never ended up playing that to its entirety because I'm like, it looks nice, but like, I wasn't compelled by the way you moved through the area in that game. And this has like a little bit more. And I think what I am sort of grappling with over time, and we'll see how things progress, is if this is a game that is more about the experientialness, like how do I sort of weigh that against the general feel? And I think that'll come down to like if the story beats or the world they're crafting ends up being really compelling. Because yeah, it also does have, like you mentioned, Kyle, that what is it? Oh my God, the Last Guardian vibe a little bit to it. It was like, especially those early scenes with your I don't know if you want to call him a pet, your companion wolf, where you're trying to like go to the right, but you need to like kind of coax it to the right part of the platform, or it's distracted by like butterflies. And I'm curious, Ben, since you're much farther along, is that like just an early trope because the dog is like a young pup,
It's
and then
exactly
it kind of
it.
will like
Yep.
that's great, because I'm like, I ain't gonna lie, I don't want to do that.
I'm
for
totally
that
with you.
long.
Yep. Like the dog just gets more and more competent and gets moves like this is actually extremely helpful in the situation. Like you can actually like choose where the dog's going to lunge and attack, and it could like pin down enemies, and you can come in and strike with your sword and stuff. Like it's a really, really good companion game if you're into those. Not co-op, but you know what I mean.
My question is related to Greece. Is that how we
Greece.
say it? Have
Yep.
we decided?
It's Gree.
No, it's Greece. I just looked it up today on their official site. They say Greece. Yep. They say pronounced Greece.
Pronounced
Wow.
like the Star Wars Jedi outlaw character or whatever. Jedi Survivor.
Now it clicks.
It's like Greece has been out for 4 years, 5 years, whatever. And I've beat that game. And I have never really heard anyone talk about anything other than, isn't that a beautiful game?
Yes, correct.
You know, and and I think it is an exceptionally beautiful game. And I think that most other things that game is trying maybe fall a little flat. And so I'm wondering if this is like, is there more there past the style of this one?
There is, but again, you know, for someone like you who likes stylish action, Jacob, I am happy with the amount of complexity in the action and the puzzles in this game so far, but it is a simple thing. I don't think you're going to be blown away, but certainly compared to Greece, I think it's going to be like, okay, there's enough meat on this bone.
Yeah, and it's like I don't need I don't need to be able to do like an air hike, but I do think that Grease was kind of a game where you started playing it and you're like, oh, it's about trauma. And then when you got to the end, you're like, still about trauma. Yeah, you know, that it did feel like one of those very like important video games that I just didn't find a ton of like personal connection with. But I love companion games.
And
so.
in this case, it's I see it and I say, okay, I'm gonna cry when the dog dies at the end. And it's hard to get excited about that, and I could be totally wrong. But
There is, I mean, you know, it's I have not finished the game yet. I'd be surprised if they lowered the dog into a wood chipper at the end. At the same time, like in the beginning,
Thumbs up.
Sorry, that's awful, but that's really funny that you said that.
there is like, it's a lot of the dog like whimpering in the beginning, especially like, oh, the dog's getting attacked, that type of thing. You can go rescue it. So like they're playing with dog lover emotions. They know the dials they have in their hands with this game, you know. But like,
But as a cat lover, I'll just be
pulled in
laughing.
the intro.
yeah, it's gonna be
You
freaking
know, I mean,
hilarious.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. The intro is pretty brutal as you get into this thing. But it's more than
Is
just.
it? Because it's just, I feel like it's not enough for something sad to happen for it to be emotional. And I do feel like a lot of times in a game, they're like, see, an animal died. It's like, that's not enough to be like an emotionally moving scene. Like, I didn't find the beginning to be that sad because there wasn't really any build up to it. It's like, oh, right away, the world's dark.
There we go.
I found it moving because I mean I just clicked into the animation like of just like what they were going through. It worked for me.
Yeah, so it's like throughout the entire game, it's a lot of it's definitely got its Studio Ghibli tones coming through here. There's kind of like the black gunk, you know, that's kind of taking over everything. The enemies kind of just look like No Face from Spirited Away as you're fighting them, and they can be really big and funky. There's, you know, infected boars hunting you down, like Princess Mononoke. Like, if you like Miyazaki, you're gonna like some of the elements here.
Because Ghibli has become a shorthand lately, I feel like, for just the word good. Like, people will just be like, yeah, it's very Ghibli-esque. And I'm like, I mean, I guess it's animated. Like, that's kind of where the line is. But I mean, it's hard not, for me at least, I to look at this and be like, oh, I'm a woman, like, with a wolf companion? Like, how can I not go to Mononoke, one of my favorite things ever, you know? So
Yeah. Which, by the way, I just last night, I finally finised that Miyazaki documentary on HBO Max. I take it.
Oh my God.
Kyle, have
don't
you watched
spoil
this
it.
thing?
I'm only halfway through.
Okay. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but
Halfway through, you get to see most of what the rest of it is.
it's almost as if
also
My wife walked in
so-
and she was like, what? She was like, what is this about? And I was like, well, it's just about him watching a lot of people die as he makes a really, I said his best friend dies, so he made Boy and the Heron. That's what it is.
that is exactly what the entire documentary is about. Like, I liked Boy and the Heron just to completely get off the track of Neva here. But I feel like that documentary is everything I liked about Boy and the Heron times 20. It was like, hey, you want to just sit and think about how Miyazaki is dealing with his age and mortality and everything in the world today? Like, that documentary is just that in spades. And it's so funny to me, Jacob, that it's like, it's so 1-to-1. It's like you can watch Boy and the Heron. It's like, what means
this guy is that guy.
Right. And they're like cross dissolving with like showing the character fading into the real guy. And it's like, it just keeps coming up of like, yeah, you're acting like the Pelican, you know, because I made you the Pelican in that movie. And now you're acting like the Pelican guy right here. It's like, oh, just very, very literal. But oh my God.
best friend loves ham so much.
It's really at the tone of that. But Leo, you should watch the documentary too. Everyone should watch the documentary on HBO Max. Yeah, what is it, Miyazaki and the Heron? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Also, they call him Grandpa Jellybean. Like his grandkids call him Grandpa Jellybean. That's so good.
so cute.
And I do think that it kind of helps you reject. Look, sorry, we can stop talking about Miyazaki.
We can't.
But like, there is the idea that he is like just this miserable old man who makes brilliant art, and like a lot of that is in there. But there's also a lot of like him being very kind of funny and sarcastic and whatever. And so I do think it like adds dimensionality to him. So he's not like just the miserable old man who makes great art.
That's the thing, is like, I think he has this reputation as kind of, I don't know, curmudgeon, if that's the right word. But then again, it's like, what a, you know, going back to Leo's comment, what a ham himself. Like the fact that he allows himself to be filmed so much over years of this movie's development, and it's just him like looking at the camera like, I forgot how to draw. Blah. It's like, you would think that he would be annoyed having the
hanging out of his
camera
mouth,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, all my friends are dying. I don't know how to draw anymore. What's the deal with this?
My desk is incredibly tiny. You'd think they'd give me an office, but I just have a little tiny desk in the corner.
I feel like I don't need to watch it now.
You kind of
Everything
get the
else,
gist, yeah. The
It's basically
kids,
the same thing.
they're not playing on that soccer field I built. What the hell's going on? Anyways, Neva, outside of Ghibli stuff, Neva, it's very cool, and it's just impressing me more and more as I go along. I can't wait to finish this thing. It seems great. And I would argue that it's one of those beautiful games I've ever seen. Which reminds me, what are the most beautiful games you all have ever seen? When we say beautiful games, what comes to mind?
I mean,
This was so tough.
I know.
Because it's like, do you go fidelity? Do you go art style? And then if you're going art style, like, what are you basing it on? One that I feel like doesn't really get talked about, but I find it to be one of the most beautiful games is Yoshi's Island.
Great
I think that art
pick.
style
Yep.
with the thick like black line art is just gorgeous. It's playful, it's unique, it's kind of timeless in many ways, and I think it's one of the most striking and personable games that I've seen.
Yeah, and where do you stand on Yoshi's Story?
I don't think I played Yoshi's Story.
I don't think I have either, but it's such a weird thing to
And
look
maybe
at.
that's a good place to leave it at, I think, from what I hear about Yoshi's Story,
It's a story not worth learning. But yeah, Yoshi's
I
Island,
think
you're
Yeah.
totally
it
right.
on Switch. Yeah, I think you can play it.
We'll never know, Kyle.
Yeah.
Never know. There's no way of knowing.
No, I like
No,
the people. So we had people write in too, that are supporters on Patreon about what they think is the most beautiful game, and it's interesting because it's all over the place. People are choosing like the big, expensive AAA games because like watching the sunrise and Ghost of Tsushima is gorgeous, But then there are the people that go for the 2D stuff, and I really appreciate that, Like I think for me, I think of games like Grease. I think of like stylish 2D is kind of my wheelhouse when I think about the most gorgeous games. And so I think if I had to pick one for myself, I think Genesis Noir might be like the most beautiful game I've ever seen. If you don't remember that game from 2021, where it's a film noir thing about the Big Bang and how it correlates to a gun being fired and a murder. It's a wild game, but visually it just gobsmacks me, everybody.
If we're throwing out small games, one that I wrote down, Lego Builder's Journey.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Great pick.
Which is kind of like what can ray tracing do in an incredibly tight environment where it is just like it's like a very small Lego diorama, but it's like, my God, the fidelity that they have with the Legos and the way that like they have like Lego water moving, and then all of the like bounces and light and transparency is done exactly right. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Is this like a Captain Toadstool kind of game? Is that
Toad.
like
Yes, it is similar.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Puzzle?
It's isometric, and you can spin the area, and then you are but you're more physically moving objects to like build in a way that like Captain Toad is more about like examining a space and like how to operate. This is more like, build a little bridge and then you cross over. It has a beautiful story too. That game is so underrated.
Yeah,
and it
you're
does
right.
look gorgeous.
On the waterfront, Julie Miner wrote in on Patreon saying, my pick for the most beautiful game is Sea of Thieves for the water. Like looking out over the water, it's tough to beat Sea of Thieves. It's like, yeah, I didn't even think about that. They're totally right.
Good water goes a long way because you look at it and you're like, how do they do this? It's
Right.
I don't know how a game pulls off this technology.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple of things came to mind for games that have just really grabbed me over the last few years, and I feel like Ape Out is really up there for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Kind of fitting that mold of almost 2D-ish, abstract design, just carrying it above and beyond.
For sure. Looking almost like paper cutouts in this Hotline Miami type gameplay where you're an ape busting out. But also, I don't know, when I think beauty, I think sound contributes to it. I think it's a big umbrella, and the sound of this game is so incredible. It's mostly drums, kind of jazzy drums, different types of drums, and like clanging on pipes depending on the environments you're in, and some music besides that that's really impactful. But combined with like big clangs when you kill guys, it's like you are performing this drum track as you play, and it goes from like side A to side B. It's kind of in this record format, and it's so it's so short that it never loses momentum, and it kind of really sells the whole thing it's trying to do.
I also
by its sound.
I really love with Ape Out that it's like it's top down and it's 2D, but the way that it does like depth is that you'll kind of be like going in hallways, and you can see that the levels of the hallways are actually like higher than the perspective. Like it gives the game depth, even though it is this just, you know, static top down shot in a really cool and interesting way.
Yeah, and a lot of people had a tough time like separating the audio from the visuals as well, Leo. Like Max Murphy wrote in saying their pick is Celeste. Like they have to combine the audio and the visuals of the game, so just overall most beautiful game would have to be Celeste.
Yeah. It can be a pretty broad category if you want it to be. Like, there's beauty in all aspects of design, even gameplay. You can say a game is designed beautifully or can be played beautifully. You know, I think those are valid.
That's why I chose Blasto as mine.
I chose black on Xbox. Why do you say that?
Oh, interesting. Kyle, do you have one that jumped up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine some folks brought this one up, but I still remember, I think it was on G4, like I was flipping through channels and I saw just they had these like weird interstitials like between commercials where they would just show like little snippets of gameplay, and that was like the first time I saw Okami.
Yeah,
and it was like a year or two before it came out, and I just saw a little bit of it, and I was completely enamored with it, and I was like, what is this? What is that? And then it kind of disappeared for like a year or two, and then I remember the next time I saw it, there was a demo at a kiosk at the GameStop that I was working at. And I was just like, oh, this thing, it exists. This wasn't just a fever dream. And yeah, that game just looks incredible and hasn't really been emulated a lot. I feel like there hasn't been anyone that's really tried to or been able to make a game that looks like it. So Okami still stands up to me as just being this like really beautiful, unique, painterly game that holds up. And then when they sort of make it high definition, it's only improved.
Yeah. Well, they have the Okami DLC for Path of the Goddess. Does that count?
It doesn't, but I did wear that outfit in Path of the Goddess because I am such a big Okami fan.
There we go.
And I remember Ready at Dawn ported the game to Wii, and they did. I think they did like a couple little behind the scenes things, or maybe I'm thinking of when you spoke to them for Game Informer to talk about the order. But they said that when they got the assets to support the game to Wii, like a lot of like their early time was spent just like, you know, loading up a character and just like rotating it and looking at it and being like, oh my God, look at this guy. How do they do this? You know?
What have you
I just
done?
love that idea of them just like, they just couldn't even make the game. They just couldn't help but look at it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Graham Gilmore wrote in with one that is kind of in that same camp of like, this is how it worked for me because it was debuted in like an Xbox sizzle reel. And it was like, wait, what was that? Go back. And that was a Cuphead. I think it's another one that's like, oh, if you're talking about those beautiful games of all time, like you gotta at least mention that for just being unbelievable.
Dragon Slayer, of course.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
an offbeat one, but I think about is Riven, the sequel to Myst.
Why Riven?
I think that Riven just has, I mean, it's like, it's kind of cheating because it's just like, well, everything you're seeing is basically like a composed photograph, you know, but it's like the tableaus that Riven puts in front of you are just so stunning.
Yeah. Did you play that remaster that came out? Is that just this year?
I haven't even played the original. I just know what it looks like.
Oh man, you're in luck. There's a remaster just sitting there waiting for you, man.
I was so excited. My aunt was buying me a game as a kid at the Apple store, and I saw Myst. I was like, this is 3 games in 1. I'd be stupid not to get this. And then, of course, cannot solve any puzzle in any of the games.
yeah.
Yeah, it's also cheating, but Luca Alberti is saying, I know I'm pandering, but I don't care. I'm submitting Immortality as the most beautiful game ever made. Some of those beautiful musical sequences in all of gaming. It's very gimmicky. You have fun learning the rules and how the game progresses, just like a board game. The story's deep and touching, and it's wonderful to look at, of course. Interesting pick for a live action.
It's more than just the shots, too. Like the way it's put together and the twists that it does with the way you're interacting with it are like... I think of beauty sometimes as just something you're in awe of. Like it really captures you and makes you zero in on it. Nothing else is going on in the whole world. And that game has some serious moments where I'm just sitting riveted at my computer.
Yeah. Want some rapid fires from the community here? Kenjamin says Inside is the most beautiful game ever made.
Yeah, that was on my list.
Yeah. Christian Jimenez, Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Interesting pick. Those environments, yeah. Floof Queen Emily, of course, Outer Wilds. Kelsey Sims writes in, Shadow of the Erdtree would have to be number one for most beautiful.
Yeah.
Jacob, is that, if you really got down to it, is that top 5 for you, I think, just for stunned by the beauty of a game?
No. I mean,
didn't think so.
I think it's, if it was like, what is your favorite fantasy world? Then I think it would be up there. But there is that kind of like, I don't know, the beauty feeling is one of those just kind of like, you just gotta feel it. And I love Shadow of the Erdtree, but I wasn't kind of overwhelmed by the image of it as much.
Wow. Michael Rorson chooses Skyward Sword, which is an interesting pick. I didn't play the HD version of that. I do kind of want to
Maybe
go
they meant Wind
back.
Waker. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
Well, no, Matthew W. wrote in about Wind Waker as well. But yeah, kind of that painterly look of Skyward Sword. I'm curious how that's going to age. I don't know.
I had when I was doing a lot of VR, I had my Steam VR home be like a fan-made the starting island from Wind Waker with the music and the wind blowing and stuff.
That's
And it
cool.
was
Like the
it was really
town?
cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I
Cool
like
to be
that.
in.
Yeah.
I did have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom kind of both on my list, just because of like the unscripted moments of beauty in that, that it's like if you're playing a linear game and it has a good sunrise, you can be like, wow. But if you're just like out climbing a mountain at night and the sun rises in Breath of the Wild, it feels like you're like experiencing it for real, and it is so much like more meaningful.
Yeah.
And that's because I think it also helps that there's like weather that matters, right? Like a brisk morning is cold and Link is shivering. Because one of probably my main pick, if I were to give my true heart's answer, is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because of the atmosphere, the seeing the breath come out of Arthur Morgan's mouth when it's cold, and just the soundscapes. I was just remembering the other day about how, because part of the beauty is like maybe the fidelity has been passed by now, but like the ecosystem of animals interacting is pretty unmatched still, I think. And the going through that world and hearing a moose call. The mooses are the most rare animals in that game. I caught 3 of them in my 600 hours in Red Dead Online. I remember every place that had happened where I was galloping and I heard that call and I stopped what I was doing, failed a mission sometimes. Like I just need to focus on this, and how big of a deal that was. And that's because it sells you so much on like being in nature.
Yeah.
It's definitely what I think of for most beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like that's the go-to for. I know you said that like it does go beyond fidelity, or that maybe people have surpassed it, but I feel like maybe it's what you mentioned, where it's it working in harmony. But I feel like that's like the answer if you're going for like realism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sense of
John,
place.
Jonathan Anderson writes in Scorn. Interesting. You got a funky sense of
considered it.
beauty.
I
thought
mean,
about
if
it.
you
All right.
like that look, it does have definitely like an evocative atmosphere.
Okay.
I suppose.
We got Ari Torben saying, thinking of the most beautiful games, to me, there's something about the 3D rendered backgrounds found in PS1 games. They still have an impact on me. It somehow allowed my imagination to really dive into these worlds. Legend of Dragoon is my personal favorite because that water still looks good in that game. But yeah, the PS1 is interesting on this front. Like Heart of Darkness, I still think is so beautiful for the animation. But when I think of just like loving the look of a game for PS1, I think Mega Man Legends is still pretty high up there. Just like the bright, vibrant colors really strike a dagger into my soul. Fred DeNovo says any Vanillaware game, Odin Sphere, 13 Sentinels, obviously. Chris Pelly says To the Moon. Bo Bakken says What Remains of Edith Finch. And then also, he says, also, is there a funnier line in any song than this gem by Weird Al Yankovic where he said, quote, you think your Commodore 64 is really neato. What kind of chip you got in there? A Dorito? That is a good point. That actually might be the most beautiful thing in here, Bo. Tyler Sticka chose Grease. There we go. Mr. Buttons, Journey. I mean,
Yeah, Journey I'd written down. Yeah.
that's
The
tough.
sand looks really good.
Yeah, that one shot when you're going down the side and the sun's coming through the pillars. Like when I think of the
Yeah, literally. Yep.
That's it. That's the shot. Kenny Long, Persona 3, Hauling Gas says Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. Bon John Bovey, Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Love it. DC Fat Cat is here. Oh, Christ. I thought we got rid of these guys. They say Astral Chain. And then Chandler swings in with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. It's like, oh, yeah. I don't give enough attention or credence to Third Strike. I need to spend more time with that.
It is a perfect looking game.
On that fighting game front, I wrote down Dragon Ball Fighters. I still think that game just looks freaking incredible.
Yeah. Yep. You're totally right.
And Guilty Gear Strive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same idea. Backstage passes lighten up. Crowboy, the Ori series, like you can't ignore that.
Yeah.
And then Eric, I didn't think of this, but you're totally right. Tetris Effect would probably count as one of those beautiful games of all time.
I was actually kind of trying to decide if Tetris Effect or Res would be. I think like Res Area X, the kind of new VR section that they added is like maybe the peak of that kind of style of design.
Yeah. The Ascent from Neil Smith, absolutely. Y'all got other ones you want to throw out there?
Sable.
Sable.
It's Sable on mine too. I
Another
didn't
one.
play Sable,
Also,
though, but
also the
it looks
music, like skating around that desert with Japanese breakfast playing in the background, hard to beat.
Yeah, God, I forgot about Sable. Totally.
On the fidelity front, I would put Dead Space Remake in that conversation just because
Interesting.
I think like computer graphics are so good at rendering metal, and that whole game takes place inside this sort of industrial metal.
But is
space.
it beautiful, Hilliard?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
There's a lot
I
of
mean,
burgers
there's
in
a
that
lot
game,
of
and that's
there's a lot of
beautiful.
there's a lot of sequences in that game where I was like truly like this is the best looking game I've played in a long time. Like I think that game looks incredible.
And the stark lighting has a big impact too, right?
Yeah.
The areas that are lit up and it
Just like
looks so
streaming
specific.
through the metallic pipes and stuff. It's the setting. It's kind of like Pixar deciding to make Toy Story because their technology could render plastic really well. I feel like Dead Space Remake is like video games can do metal things really well, so we're gonna make a whole world out of metal that you gotta fight monsters in.
That's why Astrobot looks amazing. If he was just some schmuck running around, he'd look hideous. We'd hate that game.
I also thought of Return of the Obra Dinn for this,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
which is so interesting looking because it's kind of evokes like MS-DOS old games, but of one that could never exist because it's first person and real time, but also evokes old timey photographs, like high contrast pictures where you can barely make out people's faces. It sells the idea so well, and there's so many moments as you progress through the story of what happened to this pirate ship in that game, where it's like the ways that you can't quite tell exactly what's going on add to how striking it is, and how how much your imagination just runs wild with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Somerville from
Ooh, interesting.
A lot of moments in that game that like where you're looking out in the horizon and watching an alien invasion happen that I think look really, really amazing.
Yeah.
Because it was the focus of a video I recently made, Hellblade 2.
Yep.
Hard to argue with. I don't think it's beautiful as much as like fidelity, but I do think if someone was like, what is the best looking game right now? The Hellblade 2 would be my answer.
Yeah, that's very fair. You know what my answer would be? Life is Strange, Double Exposure, everybody. Janet, you've played the first 2 chapters of this thing?
Yeah.
Congratulations. It's not coming out for a while. It's like the 29th of October. So early.
They are doing an early access thing where if you buy the super deluxe edition, you get early access to the first 2 episodes, like as of like this past Monday. And then 2 weeks after that, the whole game comes out.
Gotcha. And so the world is clamoring for more of Max Caulfield, the big return of the character from the first game. And after the first 2 chapters, it seems...
I think it's really great. I love this game. I think it's fantastic. Let's see, without spoiling
That's the tricky
anything.
part.
I think so. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, I don't want Max back. I don't want you to touch the story. This is like, we don't need a sequel. And I think if you're just like so firmly in that bag, that's valid. And then I guess you just kind of skip out on it. But I think if you're open to checking it out, I really love what they are doing with this narrative. I do think that them carrying Max over is more than just like hey, this game is really beloved or this character is already known. Like It really is compounding on the grief and the loss that is the ending of the game, whichever ending you end up picking, because there's 2 different ways it can end. Because this game is about you have another friend who ends up dying. This is like in the marketing material and fairly early in the game. And the whole mechanic is that there's 2 timelines that you can shift between. One timeline, your friend is dead. One, they're not. And you're trying to kind of see what's going on, and then also maybe see if you can like save your friend's life. Maybe ? But is that how time works? Like you don't really know as the player exactly how things are working. You don't explicitly have a direct plan, but you're sort of jumping around trying to figure out what's going on, and investigating the death through 2 different timelines. And in doing so, a lot of drama ensues, and there's also a larger messed up time thing going on. I'm a big fan of the timey-wimeys in games, and this game is doing that much more interestingly than I expected. I would have been fine if it's just like, you solve the puzzles, because sometimes there's a staircase you need in the other one that there's not open in the other one. I would have been fine with that and just walking around and hanging out with decent writing. But this is so much more layered than that and mysterious, and so many of the decisions are very gray as well. They don't do as much of the nice answer, bad answer. Like, there's a little bit of that here and there, but there is a lot of, okay, do I snitch on this guy and tell my friend what happened? Oh, he said that she shouldn't know about it. Oh, she might not have even done this. I'm going to do this. And you have no idea how it's going to play out later. And I love having that feeling. I've made several choices already where I'm like, I think I messed that up. And I have no idea if I did yet. And I'm excited to see how that unfolds. It's a very dramatic and intriguing plot. A lot more than I think you might assume so from just hearing the pitch of friend dead 2 timelines.
Right. So does it feel more promising based on the first 2 chapters than like True Colors even, which I know you were red hot on?
I think this is a stronger opening than what True Colors is. I remember playing the first episode of True Colors and being like, I don't know, guys, the power of empathy. I don't think this is that interesting. And then it really was like, boom, we have an awesome game. And I'm like, oh, my bad. This is why we don't review these episodically, because it gets messy.
Right.
But yeah, I think they, unsurprisingly, based on the fact that they have this early access for the first 2 episodes, the ending of episode 2 eats. Like, I was like, oh my God, they're doing this? Like, they're going here. I was really surprised by it. I've talked to some other people who have played it as well, where they're like, I kind of knew that would be the thing. And I'm like, hey, you're smarter than me. I don't know what to tell you, but
okay, that's good to hear.
I think it's a really intriguing setup. And I got to preview the game at PAX, and I got to interview the developers a little bit. And I asked them about the surrealism that the game might evoke, because that's a big aspect of the Life is Strange franchise. Besides having powers, there's often something kind of cataclysmic that might occur. And that was a big part of, without spoiling it too much, the first game, where there's an episode where it's very trippy dream realm kind of stuff. And I'm like, how wild does it get? And they said from episode 2 on, it's just gonna keep ramping up and just being weird. And I'm very excited for that. So even going into this, I'm like, I don't know what they have, but I'm expecting them to kill these 2 chapters, because they said it's about to spiral out of control, and it's already pretty intriguing. So I'm very optimistic that this is going to be, if not the best of the series, competitive. I feel like they really have to fumble the last 3 to drop off from where they're at for me, but I'm really, really enjoying it a lot.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, I've been amazed in the ramp up to this one, how much love there is for that first Life is Strange. Because I played that game when it came out and I enjoyed it. I had a fine time with it, but there is a deep reverence for that first game that I don't think I was quite tapped into. And it's nice to hear that they're not dropping the ball by kind of picking up on those threads again, because it is kind of sacred ground for a lot of people out there, I think.
Yeah.
How much does it interact with the ending of the original? Because it really is it's a pretty big difference based on what you pick. So do you say which one, or does it kind of try to incorporate both?
You say which one. You get presented a choice pretty early on where they ask who is Chloe to you, and you can pick friend or girlfriend, and they also ask about the ending. They don't say what did you choose, but they have it and what happened, and you can kind of say what happened. I picked one of the less popular endings for Life is Strange 1, so I'm very curious what other people got for the ending that they picked. So yeah, I might want to look into that too, just to see how does the writing change? Because for me, I feel this story kind of works I feel it works maybe a little bit better for the ending I picked. So yeah, I'm not sure how that would weigh if you picked the other, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we want to spoil the ending of Life is Strange 1. I don't know if that's allowed here.
Maybe we don't need to.
10
I wouldn't.
years old, but
yeah,
it's pretty known, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. Yeah, I think we can
Sure.
talk about just kind of the 2 big swings and whatnot. But Cool. All right. Life is Strange double exposure. I know Haley's excited about it. I'm sure we'll be talking about it even more in the podcast in the future, or maybe a Max spoilers too, but Max Caulfield spoilers. October 29th when that
Always
thing's coming
be
out.
punning.
Oh, never stop. Someone's maybe enjoying it out there. Hey, speaking of someone's maybe enjoying it out there, Super Mario Party Jamboree is out this Friday, everybody. Come one, come all. Jamboree's happening. Leo, you've been a defender of Mario Parties on Switches recently, right?
I sure have been.
Okay. Well, what if I told you there's a new one? So, okay, here's my sense, and you tell me where I'm way off on this. Super Mario Party, right? On the Switch, they're going for some new stuff. Then Mario Party Superstars in 2021 released, and that was more kind of like just all the classics. Let's pack in a bunch of old mini games, and people seem to love it.
Throwback.
Yeah, and then so now this one, Super Mario Party Jamboree, it seems like it's kind of a fusion of we have some old boards, some old mini games, but then there's also a bunch of new stuff packed in here and a ton of optional modes. It's kind of confusing how many just different little, because like you have this perspective of looking around the environment and choosing which island to go to. And it's like, oh, here's this little island where it's just like a music rhythm game. And then here's this 20 player thing over here. So I only played a little bit of this. We didn't get early codes from Nintendo, but I went over to Dan Reichert's house and played around and messed around a bit with Super Mario Jamboree. So I ain't no expert or anything, but it seems like it's going to be exactly what Mario Party fans want. Like, you know, believe it or not, some of the new mini games are dumb and some of them are super fun. But I think it does really smart things. Like you can choose when you're setting up a game in this one if you want the pro rules. Basically, a Final Destination no items for Mario Party, where the idea is like minimizing the amount of just nonsense luck in the game. And it like limits the amount of items on the board. So it's not infinite for every store. Apparently.
Kids
and
were crying too much, and they're like, we need to get something out of this. And
That's
it's
the
like,
idea.
We need a way to let your kid win.
Yep. And if you choose that pro rules thing, you know what random star bonus there's going to be at the end of the game. So you can kind of like steer towards it if you care about that. And then also in this, yeah, you can choose, like people can vote on the mini game that's popping up. It's not just a random thing, but if you're in pro rules, then you can be like, okay, we want this one over here. So it seems like they're learning the lessons from people screaming about Mario Party over the last 30 years.
Yeah, the limit on items in the shops sounds like it could potentially be really good because the last few Mario Party rounds I've played, it's like you find the shop that has the gold warp pipe so you can teleport right to the star, and the entire match for hours is around getting to that shop over and over again. And that's the whole game.
Yep.
So having some kind of safeguards against like how stupid it's designed is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And like it's
Or
fun.
they could just design it better is also an option.
They've had a good 11 goes at that. I think we can try something else.
Yeah, it is cool to have different options. I wish they don't sound like there was mix and matchable, right, Ben? It's just kind of like you're going pro rules or
Yep.
bust. I do wish those could kind of blend because I feel like
Yeah.
I could see myself wanting to pick the mini games, but not necessarily wanting to get rid of like the randomness of what Mario Party is. But
Yeah, I'm
For sure, and
they're
they're never going to get rid of all the randomness. You know, it's like it's not going to satisfy the people who complain throughout entire matches of Mario Party. They just don't like Mario Party.
Yeah, at some point you need to learn, just look within your soul and realize you don't really like Mario Party. But I like that
We're doing a long coin flip here. And that's the fun.
yeah, generally.
yeah, but I like
Some
that
of us
they
are better
have.
at flipping the coin. I don't know. Man.
They got like Western World in there from Mario Party 2, which like that I've probably played more of that board than anything else in Mario Party. So it's fun to have just the nostalgia packed in here, but then still, there's some wacky new boards for you and stuff there. We did like a race car one that was an interesting idea. But yeah, Super Mario Party Jamboree seems good. Seems like Mario Party fans can rejoice out there. Everybody please celebrate responsibly.
Did you almost say Mario Panty?
I did not say Mario Panty Jamboree. That'd be inappropriate and creepy. We all agree. So anyways, yeah, pre-order Mario Panty Jamboree. Nikoderiko, The Magical World. Out now, everybody. Okay. Nikoderiko. The pitch for this game, if you've not heard of this thing, is...
You said it two different ways.
I'm covering every base. But the pitch is 100%, do you like Donkey Kong? And do you like Crash Bandicoot? What if we got some Crash Bandicoot in your Donkey Kong country? And I gotta say, so Kyle and Jan, you've been playing this thing, like booting this thing up, I was freaking pumped. I was pumped to see Nico's stupid face on my home screen on the PS5, like just some janky ass Crash wannabe. Like it has
I don't know. I'm looking at the art of this and they look really hot and designed to be hot.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, janky yet hot. There's a place for
Learned
that.
something about
Different
Leo today.
takes.
Yeah.
It's
it
kind of
go
feels
with
like a
Crash?
play to the
Goose.
a Crash appealed to the furry community accidentally. This feels like a play to the furry community.
I hadn't even considered
Leo's
it.
like, question, why are they sexy? Like, that was what I was going to get into.
I actually counterfinance and I can't control myself looking at these guys.
I understand. It's a magical world indeed. It's opening up a whole new world of pleasure. But I was excited for it. Has like Ty the Tasmanian Tiger vibes for 2024. You know what I mean? Of like that level of quality of
With
jumping
like
in
a
and saying,
million more colors. Yeah.
right. Janet, how is your Nikoderiko experience with that setup?
I will not be Nikoderikoing into the
Kind of in that
Sunday,
same
I
camp
fear.
with you.
I know. I do think it definitely is pulling the sensibilities. You know, they have like the collecting the letters. They have like rideable creatures, like when you think of, you know, those old school ending of Crash like levels where you're like riding the tiger, things like that.
Yeah, very Donkey Kong Country
But-
there too. Yeah.
What it just isn't quite fast enough. It moves really slowly. Like the character moves quite slowly, and the jump feels like a smidge heavy. And I just personally feel like I need something lighter in my 2D platformers. That could really just be a taste thing in terms of feel, because I do know different people will like resonate with different speeds, but it feels like I'm going through molasses. I think the design sensibilities seem fine, like nothing to necessarily write home about, but I think that's really what kills it for me, because y'all know me, like I'm down for like a mid platformer. Like,
I thought I
played
was too.
Hive and
Yep.
Wrench, and I was like, you know what? Loki, is this hitting? The assets look ugly, but is this kind of, are they kind of eating right now with these mechanics and how they interact? I feel like this is kind of the opposite problem. Like, I think it does look nice on its face, but it doesn't feel good to move around in. So it's gonna have to be a no for me. I don't know why I sound like I'm on Shark Tank.
No,
I will not be investing in Nikoderiko.
I'm with you. Just like
There's no
little.
But maybe you have a
button.
partner in Kyle and Ben. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no sprint button, which is odd. You can dash, but if you hold down that button, you do not run faster, which is odd. I did play the first 3 levels and then realized I'd been playing on quality mode. So and then because it just never occurred to me that this, I don't know why, maybe because it's for
Have
like
we taken quality mode too far?
I don't, well, because it's like I mean, this feels dismissive, but it feels like a kid's game, right? Like it just didn't occur to me that setting would be in there.
Yeah.
So I would wonder if maybe that would help you, Janet, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's going to run faster just because the frame rate.
Yeah, I hope not.
It'd be alarming
But-
if he did.
Earlier we were talking about, I'm sorry, I forgot the name, the game that you and Jacob and Leo are like really enamored with, the what's it called?
Echo Point Nova.
Yeah, Echo Point Nova. You guys were talking about how it feels like a game designed by a kid in the best way, sort of. This kind of feels similar, but they didn't quite hit the landing as hard. I actually quite like the game. I think it's pretty fun, but it does feel like, oh, we're gonna have this from Donkey Kong Country. The collectibles are gonna be kind of like Rayman. We're gonna have Crash Bandicoot
that's the other one I wanted to
sequences,
point out,
and
Rayman.
and it's like none of it's like quite as good as any of those elements, but it's like it's solid is kind of where I'm landing. Like it's pretty good, but it's not like, it's like if you really love Tropical Freeze and you're jonesing for more Donkey Kong Country, like this is available, but you're not going to be over the moon for it. You're going to be like, this is good, this is cool. I wanted some of this. I wanted a platformer like this, and I'm glad it's available. Is sort of where I'm landing with it currently after about 4 or 5 levels.
Yeah, it's also co-op, so if that's your cup of tea, it's like there's not really a lot of games released like this. And kind of the big selling point, I think, for real video game dorks is like it's got a whole soundtrack from David Wise, like the old Donkey Kong composer. And it's all like, especially in the early stages, it's very kind of pirate themes, like a new piratey Donkey Kong Country 2-esque like soundtrack from David Wise. I'm on board for this, but yeah, not feeling great. And also, I'm an idiot. I want to be very clear, but I beat the first boss, like the big beaver man, and then it like kicked me out to the island view to like, I thought I was going to go to the next world, except I couldn't figure out how to go to the next world. And then I just went back into that world to double check, and then I wasn't able to back out. Did you beat the beaver boss, Kyle? Do you know?
No, I only
Okay.
beat the first couple levels.
Okay, it might just be a little
You're secretly
buggy.
the biggest fan on the show.
Okay.
You don't have to
And I
turn
was
to yourself.
and I was souring on it pretty hard. So
You really gave it a fair shot, though.
I
Like,
was-
you,
I was pumped.
The boss, that's
hey, you know what? I beat that beaver boss, and he was not easy for people that are bad at games. So there we go. Nikoderiko. Yeah, if you're hungry for Donkey Kong Country, and just like, honestly, it made me happy in pockets because it's like, God, I forgot how much I love Crash Bandicoot. I forgot that Crash Bandicoot is a very dear friend of mine that I miss dearly in my life. And there's like, it's right there. You can see it in the ingredients. But
Yeah,
anyways.
the transition is actually, I was kind of impressed by how smooth it is, but when you're playing 2D for a while, and then you go into a Crash Bandicoot sequence, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Where now you're running away from the camera, and then it can shift back into 2D. I feel like it does all that pretty well.
Yeah. The weird thing is it's not on Steam. It's just on Xbox and PlayStation at this point.
Oh,
Isn't
that
that
is
weird?
surprising.
Like even
Really? Are you sure? I played it on Steam a couple months ago at Game Informer.
Steam
Like, for a video.
Nikoderiko. Let me double
yeah.
check.
It's
I'm
right.
pretty
Yeah,
sure.
it's here, but it's not out yet. It says to be.
Okay, so to be announced.
Announced.
For
okay.
that.
So they
Release
forgot.
It is so weird. I'm so used
Funky.
to just like games just launching on Steam, the UFO 50. It's like, oh, eventually we'll get to console. So it's so
Yeah.
bizarre.
They
that,
might have
like,
had They might have had maybe an issue with this like build specifically, or they put what version out. Like I don't know.
But it's
Maybe
not like an
something happened.
emergency. It's not going to be released if they're not even announcing when it's coming to Steam. But the weird thing is, and this is pretty specific, but also the remaster of Worms Armageddon, I was so excited to jump into, and I was like, wait, it's not on Steam yet? Like a Worms game, not on PC? It's really weird. I can't imagine launching a game not on Steam. But anyways, Nikoderiko, a magical world for all of us involved, no doubt about it.
I think it's Nikoderiko because it has the rhythm to it.
I don't.
I'm gonna put my
I don't know.
vote in on that one.
Yeah.
I think it's
Nikoderiko.
Karateka.
You know
I
what?
also think it's Nikoderiko.
The worst thing I can say about this game, and this is, you can light me up, chat, for being petty, but do you all also have that feeling of you're collecting letters because you're spelling out Nico, the main character's names, and every time you're collecting letters, I'd get the N, and I'd feel like a failure because normally that's the third letter in for Kong.
Oh, that's funny.
You know, but I'm like, oh wait, no, I didn't miss any. It's just the N. You start with the
that's
N. His name's Nico. Look at his face. His name's
That's
Nico.
really
Come on,
funny,
draw
yeah.
the fan art. His name's Nico.
Look into his eyes, Leo. Look deeply into his eyes.
Slowly.
Get lost.
That's right. The letters, I love you. I don't know.
Also, he's a mongoose, and the enemies are like snakes.
Oh, that's what's going on there. All right, never
I
mind.
did not get
Actually,
that from
it
the
is good.
gameplay.
It is good, everybody. Right home. Hey, Jacob, do you know how this whole thing operates?
I don't know, Ben. How does it operate?
I'm going to tell you how it operates. Janet, do you want to know how this whole thing operates?
Sure.
5 years in, I'll tell you how this whole thing operates. Patreon. People go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You jump in at any tier. If you jump in before the end of Friday the 18th, we'll DM you a Steam code for Arco, one of 2024's hidden gems. Check it out. We appreciate it. And special thanks, of course, to some of our bigger supporters, people like I Am 8-Bit. They want you to know about the Sea of Thieves vinyl soundtrack that is now available in I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. Janet, did you get a copy of this as well sent to your house?
Yeah.
Did you pop that sucker open and were also amazed by the quality and the amount that they packed into that thing?
Yeah, I think it's like a really nice. I mean, the whole point of physical, right, is that you like having a thing, and I think the like packaging, the presentation, like just really knocks it out of the park. So, yeah, all their collections really are really well crafted.
Yeah, they're not messing around, and it looks great. It sounds great. It's a Sea of Thieves vinyl soundtrack, everybody, thanks to I Am 8-Bit. They do not half-ass anything. And you can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store if you want to buy some goods for a dork in your life, or if you yourself are a dork and would like some common goods, we like to call them. You can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. You can use the promo code PashingSmumpkins. Pashing Smumpkins for 10% off everything in the store under $100. And you should help support I Am 8-Bit because they support the MinnMax community in a big bad way. They ship out a prize each and every week to whoever has the best question as we deem it. Whoever submitted the best question over on Patreon, we award them with a prize thanks to I Am 8-Bit. And this week, it's the Battletoads vinyl soundtrack. They'll just ship it to your darn house. Speaking of David Wise as a composer, Mr. Battletoads himself here. So thanks to I Am 8-Bit, and you can use that promo code for 10% off. It's in the description there. All right, y'all ready for this? Here we go. Did you like that joke in Lego Movie, by the way, Kyle? Where he says, oh, I guess you're ready for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Anyways, wow, we got the joke verdict here, folks. New show plus joke verdict, and we can determine if a joke is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Aging Poorly writes in and says, other than any charity stream or the like, what is the longest gaming session you've had with a single adult with a single game as an adult?
Oh, one of the ones that comes to mind is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard with my friend. We redboxed it, so we just like played it in its entirety, and I think that's like at least like a 7-ish
That's
hour thing.
I think so.
Maybe
Yeah, I think
longer.
that's beefy.
Yeah, I think reviewing Tears of the Kingdom, the moment I had the code, I basically was like just played until I fell asleep. Basically, like told my family, I was like, I'm paying it. I'm doing this for the rest of
I'm
the
in
day.
Hyrule now.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And you still enjoyed it after all that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I did it the next day too. I had a grand old time.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Cal hasn't seen his family in years because they keep coming out with more open world games.
I know.
Honest.
I played Citizen Sleeper in basically one sitting, which was a weird one because it was not late into the night. It was like I couldn't sleep, and I woke up at like 4, and I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll play Citizen Sleeper. And I sat there until like 1 p.m. and I just like had played through the whole game.
Oh my God. When's that second one coming out? Is that coming soon?
Yeah.
There's
'cause they have
a demo out on Next Test right now, but I don't know if it actually has like a release date.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a charity stream, so does it count if it was a stream? But I think like Tomato Adventure, that Game Boy Advance RPG.
You did go ham on Tomato Adventure.
Yeah, it
you
was
were
like it was like a 10.5
you were
hour stream or
tomatoologist
something.
that day. It
Oh
was
my God.
wild.
It was so fun.
Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain came out on my birthday, and I had the day off from work, so I sat and played it for 26 hours straight.
Oh my God.
And I remembered recently that game, like, when it's your birthday, everybody on Mother Base is wishing you happy birthday. So that was like my first day playing that game. Every time I went back to Mother Base, people were like, happy birthday, boss. And you put in your birthday at the start of the game for pretty much no reason except that.
It's so good.
That's awesome. You're like the only one that saw that then, probably. Because what are the odds that anybody else is going to know?
I'm sure there's a list out there, but I do love those games that make you enter stuff at the start of the game, like your birthday, then like by the time it comes up, you kind of forget about it. Like I guess Earthbound and like favorite food and stuff, or Stardew, your favorite thing, right? It names like the thing at the bottom after. I'm trying to think of like other examples of where that really comes back. Because I was thinking about it even with Metaphor, when you start that game and it's like, hey, you, what's your name? Like your real name. I'm like, this is going to come back like 90 hours from now. I know it is.
It came back like 3 hours from now.
Oh, well then 3 hours.
I'm 3
from now.
hours into Metaphor, and they've already called me Jacob.
All right, perfect.
I think Death Stranding celebrates your birthday as well, doesn't it? Don't they give you a cake and stuff, I think? Am I misremembering?
Death Stranding, you put in like your star sign. Like I'm pretty sure it like knows I'm an Aquarius.
Well, we could all tell, Jacob.
Yeah, right. By the way, you played that game.
Poofy Doo writes in and says, do you ever refuse to play a certain song so that your streaming service doesn't think you actually wanted to hear that song? Recently, a friend wanted me to play a song, and I reluctantly played it since he was with me, and I stopped it and finished it so that Apple Music wouldn't categorize it as recently played and factor into the algorithm. What a terrible time we live in where we have to fear playing a song.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, I don't think you're quite there yet, but that's out the window when you have a kid.
Oh,
like
sure.
that is completely like my algorithm is like, wait, you like Raffi and Radiohead? Like, what's going on?
I want to hang out with this guy.
The Wiggles on your release radar.
Yeah, I listen to whenever I'm working, just like long kind of YouTube videos of just like smooth jazz or like PS1 beats or whatever. And it's like, I don't want to do that on my Spotify because then my Discover Weekly will be nothing except that.
Smooth beats.
Yeah.
I
failed, and it is anyway.
There's like a private listening on Spotify too, where it doesn't factor into your algorithm. So like I've toggled that on before to be
That's
like,
interesting.
we don't need this messing up the algorithm.
This isn't me.
Yeah, I mean it is me, but it's the part of me that I'm ashamed of. You know what I mean? It's
Yep,
like,
we know.
which there aren't that many, so like
We all know it.
I got some stuff. I got some dunes.
That's funny.
I kept getting the Nathan For You song where he tries to get the smoke detector classified as a musical instrument. I kept getting the song from that band on my Discover Weekly, and I was like, I can't let this play. I can't let it think I like this, even though I want to hear it.
That's so funny.
Just an informal poll. Is everyone using Spotify all the time? Does everyone have a
I'm
subscription?
on Apple Music now.
Okay.
How is it? Was the Switch easy?
It was emotionally painful, but once I did it, I was like, hey, it turns out this is just another music service. I didn't need to have this weird stand-up to Spotify. But I miss Spotify. But they didn't care when I left. No, hey, a couple months cheaper. It's been so many years, you know?
Wow.
When you leave, that's when you really get to know somebody, they say.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm on Apple Music because my family has like Apple One now. Like my fiance's like, do you want to join the Apple One thing that I have with like some of my friends? And I'm like, sure. And he's like, no cost to you. I was like, sure. So I'm like, free Apple Music or paid Spotify. And I still stayed with Spotify for a little bit longer. But yeah, I'd like to say that I noticed the fidelity differences. I don't think I don't have the ears for it, but I'd like to pretend and be like, oh yeah, like some quality's better. I have no idea, you know. You can pretend those, and you can't do that at Spotify. So that's something.
Smart. Yeah, I got like a big speaker for our living room. And so I know I'm a Neanderthal, and so I don't listen to much music, but I'm trying to get back into it. I'm like, I have a huge music collection. Where is that? It was like on Google Music, and then that transferred into YouTube Music, but I don't pay for the YouTube Music service, wherever the hell it is. And so it's like, it's buried in the download section that I have to flip it every time to upload. It's like as hidden can be. But now it's been kind of nice to like, over the last couple of weeks, reconnect to like this huge library of music, but it's all like time-stamped from like cutting off in 2008. So it's like everything I was into. So it's a lot of like, you know, I went through and tried to trim it because we had a party on Sunday and I just had it on shuffle. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot of Rammstein in here and mindless self-indulgence. I don't think I've really aged well with them. I'll go ahead. And there's a couple of tracks from like YTMND greatest hits that are not very culturally sensitive. Let me remove those. Trying to like prune that down the taste from 2008 is a tricky one to go for.
You don't have streaming?
No.
Do you plan to ever get it?
I don't think so.
I mean, now it's been like you missed the area where it was cool.
Oh, really?
You're like, now we all agree that it's like evil and destroying the world. And so now you're like morally correct again.
Evil?
Spotify?
It is?
Yeah.
Wait, what's going on with Spotify? What?
The same thing that's going on with every other media industry. Like, make it impossible for any artist to make any money off their songs.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right.
On that
While
front,
making a bad product because they have pretty much complete market saturation.
Yeah, like Spotify
Yeah.
keeps getting worse because they're like, no, what you really want is algorithms.
And they keep
Gotcha.
cranking the price. That's why I left. I'm like, this is this price hike is getting ridiculous. But it's interesting that you said you want to like get back into it. So I wonder, like, are you gonna just like go to the store and like pick up a CD? Like, how are you like gonna go about listening? Are you just putting the radio on? And this is a whole show in itself. We'll swing back to this later. But I'm very curious what that looks like if you choose not to go the streaming route.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can find out. Maybe Leo would argue with maybe an episode of New Show Overflow that might be coming up soon. Who can say?
Or giant music or something. I don't know. I'm sad you guys think it's by each other a little bit.
Nice music.
Play the piano from Big.
Oh, that would have been really good. Okay, let me complain about New Show Plus votes. Yeah, because that was the biggest slam dunk in the world in my mind. Because Leo and I had a whole giant competitive series of giant Jenga, giant chess. What else do we have? Giant Scrabble, of course. And then for this week, it's like, okay, well, we should do it because I've wanted these for a while because I'm not a normal adult. But at some point, I found like giant inflatable boxing gloves and also like inflatable armor you can wear. And I'm like, this would be the most fun thing. And I'm like, this is the opportunity. We can buy it from MinnMax and then have the 4th episode for New Show Plus be called Giant Boxing. And Leo and I can go in a field and beat the crap out of each other wearing like inflatable armor. People are out of their minds if they aren't voting for this. And it lost by 2 votes to Janet and Sarah, respectable human beings playing Infinity Nikki.
Nikki.
Yes.
Haley was there too? Bonus person?
That's right, bonus Haley. Yeah.
Extra content.
That made me laugh. Yeah, because wasn't it called like double Nickies or something? And then, like Haley's just
we got the
sitting there
rare
as well.
triple Nikki. Yeah.
Right.
An even rarer pull in the gotcha machine that is Infinity Nikki.
It's interesting that it was like Infinity Nikki, a game all about fashion and like versus, and like, you know, I'm guessing a lot of compliments about picking outfits and stuff versus like what would have been Leo and Ben just beating each other.
Yeah, 2 men in a field wailing on each other.
I think we should be proud of the MinnMax community.
You're right. We should. We should. You're
also,
totally
maybe
right.
they clocked that like, okay, these guys are definitely only going to fight for like 90 seconds max. You know,
We were planning on
59 minutes
backup
of
things
smack
to
talk.
do. For sure.
Yeah. Oh, just think of all the jokes we could have made though, Leo. Like, float like a butterfly, but we could have like thrown ourselves into a pool and we could have floated because of all the inflatable things. Just those types of
Or like,
jokes, Just think.
like,
go, man.
or maybe we should stop because my nose is bleeding.
I guess so.
Did you deflate? You deflated, didn't you?
Don't deflate me, dude.
Deflategate. Yeah.
That's right. Joshua writes in, says, keep talking about music. Whenever I hear someone talk about Neva, the song from The Greatest Showman, Never Enough, pops into my head. Never Enough, Never, Never sounds more like Neva. We all know The Greatest Showman soundtrack, right? But anyway, is there a random song that pops into your head from a game title, but it's not from the game, but just a game title makes you think of a song, is the question from Joshua. A very specific
I
question.
had the cursed job of reviewing Don't Nods. Tell Me Why.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
To review without everyone just commenting, tell me why. Yeah, so it's just, and even when I would talk about it in passing, like no one cares about this. I mean, no one ever cares about your review, but I'm like, the world really just doesn't care because they just sing this song over and over again. But yeah, cursed title.
That's the
for
perfect
sure.
answer. Yes, absolutely.
Arcade Fire's The Suburbs came out in 2010, which I believe, I don't know what the timing was. I don't know when Dead Space 2 came out. They might have been they were pretty close, maybe like a year apart. But you spend a lot of time in Dead Space 2 on The Sprawl. And there's a track on that album called The Sprawl 2. Well, there's Sprawl and Sprawl 2. But that song is now always connected to Dead Space 2 to me, which is weird because they are tonally completely different. But Dead Space 2 makes me think of Arcade Fire's song Sprawl 2 specifically.
Of course, it makes complete sense. Yeah.
Of course.
Garrett Kidney writes in, they say, missed joke opportunity. Last week when you realized nobody else had tried the UFO 50 multiplayer yet, Ben said, that's alarming. Somebody should have responded saying, no, it's Alarmo. Yeah, obviously we let you down as a podcast. You can give us 1-star review. That's fine. Max Murphy writes in and says, I commented last week on YouTube about getting an Alarmo, and Janet told me to follow up with my thoughts. So here we go. After using the Alarmo from Nintendo for one night, it's a nice clock, but the alarms suck. I thought that if I turned off motion sensing, it would basically just play Nintendo music, but instead it just pretends that you're moving a bunch constantly and the sounds drown out the music entirely. What? They said, I actually do like the clock. When my cat wakes me up at night and I check the time and see a little sleeping Ochi from Pikmin, the sleepy sounds and the hourly chimes are cute. There's a funky novelty to having it on my bedside table, but I'm considering turning the alarm off entirely. The problem is that using an Alarmo with no alarm would force me to take a good long look inside myself to ask what I've become. Yep.
Yeah. Tough move trusting Nintendo with something that has specific needs and has been ironed out by other industries.
I thought that whole conversation last week was so funny because it's as video game critics, we often find ourselves in the position of taking something seriously that was fundamentally made as a toy for children. This is the most, when Janet was talking about her cool alarm clocks that monitor things, I'm yeah, but what if you were 6 years old?
You're right.
What would you think?
Oh yeah, because 6-year-olds really care about the biometrics of their sleep, Jacob.
No,
Come on.
Yeah,
this is a device caught in the middle, and in that crossfire.
They need
we just
flashing.
Unload. I don't know.
I hear it, but for the reveal trailer, they should have just had flashing on the screen this is for 8-year-olds. This is for 8-year-olds. That's
they had adults in the marketing. I would argue. I don't think it's actually marketed for kids, even though maybe a kid. Well, Kyle, you have a kid that has to wake up on their own. Would your kid be open to this, or are they no? Why would I use this?
She seemed completely disinterested. She would could not care less.
Damn it.
She said that's for grown-ups.
Yeah, it's right next to the bottle of Jack Daniels.
I genuinely, for a while in college, used my DS as an alarm because I actually really genuinely liked the built-in alarm for the DS because it was nice. It displayed 2 times the clock, obviously, but it also let you know exactly how much time was left until your alarm went off.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. I just I liked waking up in the middle of the night and being okay, I don't have to be for school for 4 hours. I can sleep a little more,
Do you guys ever get freaked out by that? I really I think the only time I use Siri in my life is for Siri, wake me up in 1 hour if I want to take a nap or something. But then it freaks me out then when I have the timer on the screen. And it's as I'm setting the phone down, it's 59:32, 59:30.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
I always set it with a little extra time because I don't like being rushed. I'm look, if I want to lay down for an hour, which is kind of a cursed amount of time. It's like 110, you know? It's like I can kind of just, yeah. But normally I do 30 minutes or 90 minutes. Hour, you get caught in the middle.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel like, okay. And then you feel worse waking up as one of those terrible zones for napping?
A little bit, but honestly, like, I always feel kind of the same. I don't really have a hard time waking up from naps. I can sleep right now and then get back up.
Prove it. Villas writes in
One
this.
day. Vote for it on New Show Plus.
Please don't. Villas writes in and says, in a very Jerry Seinfeld voice, "What's the deal with Quest 64?" Quest 64 was 7th on the MinnMax list of what people were playing over the weekend, and I feel this needs to be addressed. Has anyone on the podcast played Quest 64? Have they even seen it? Does it sound like a fake game? I played it back in the 90s, and it was not good, but I'm curious how others felt. I think there's a JRPG club in the Discord. I believe they're the ones that are playing Quest 64, so those numbers are skewed. There's not a cultural renaissance overall for Quest 64 at this point, but I do think it's a...
Don't take this from Quest 64.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
It's the only time they're going to have this time.
The box art for Quest 64 was great, and I'm always very fond.
I remember seeing that Blockbuster all the time, being like, what is this?
Yeah. And I'm very partial to Quest 64 because, Kyle, when I met you for the very first time, I was playing Quest 64 at Game Informer.
So in that little room?
I was setting up for the replay we're doing on Quest 64, like changing the tech. And I remember you came in with your wife, and I was like, who is this schmuck? And you said, Quest 64, right on. I love that game. And I said, me too, Kyle. I don't think that happened.
Did I really?
No.
Okay, I was about to say, did I nervously pretend I was a big Quest 64 fan? I love Quest 64.
But I know it's a conversation that's been had 1,000 times, but every once in a while it's nice to reflect on just how weird it is that the Super Nintendo is one of the greatest JRPG consoles of all time, arguably number one, and then the follow-up console, the Nintendo 64, it's just a barren wasteland. It's like, I was looking it up today because I'm like, there has to be some I'm forgetting about, but it's Paper Mario, I mean, one of the greatest of all time, Quest 64, which is no good, Aiden Chronicles, which isn't Japanese, it's just some THQ turd, no offense to the Aiden Chronicles fans out there. And then Ogre Battle 64, which is cool, but wasn't like a juggernaut. But obviously it's smart and we should all be playing Ogre Battle 64. But like, that's really
There's
it.
also Hybrid Heaven. Don't forget Hybrid Heaven, which is a turn-based action game that I remember renting that game and just being flabbergasted at how it mechanically worked.
Right.
It's like, what?
It's weird, man.
That's a weird game.
Parker Aiden. Oh, from the Chronicles? He writes in and he says, hello. How many of the cohorts have played the Sly Cooper games? Can Leo rank them along with anyone else who has played them?
Did you play the fourth one, Leo?
I did, not since it came out. I played it on Vita.
Okay.
And I liked it a lot.
I never beat it. Yeah.
I might not have either.
You didn't beat it the Vita?
Didn't beat the Vita.
I had too many other cool things to be playing on the Vita.
That's right. Okay, so what's the ranking? By the way, behind the scenes stuff, we've been promising Leo that he can talk about Sly Cooper 2 for like 4 months now. But now is not the time, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
Waiting for the right moment.
Yeah.
Need to take up more times in meetings with it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious what you think, Leo, but I haven't revisited 2 and like it was been a while, but I feel like 1 is the easiest to revisit because it's kind of like the Jak and Daxter curse, where it's like 1 is the most like straightforward, like you can get into a level and you can have a good time, where the other ones are much more, there's a lot more commitment. So like I think maybe 1 would be at the top of my list for that reason, maybe, but it's kind of a toss up between 1 and 2, I think.
1's got a lot of rough edges. I would almost compare it to like Streets of Rogue 1 versus Streets of Rogue 2, which we also don't have time for me to talk about today.
Right.
But it's like going from these linear platformer where stealth is like part of the feel of it, and it's not really a stealth game, to a series of sandboxes, mini open worlds, where stealth does matter more, and it is about creeping up on people. It's a pretty big shift, and I like what 2 is a lot more. And I think the powers are so strange in 1. The way you're kind of like getting them just for maxing out all the collectibles. Surprise, we're talking about it. All the collectibles to get 1 power for each level, and then you just R2 tab through like 12 powers. It's really hard to find the one you want. This one, you kind of equip powers on these, like on the triggers with different cooldowns. It just makes a lot more sense. It's really refined. And I feel like 2 is the highest. I haven't played 3 in forever either, to be honest. So I'd probably go 2, 4, 3, 1, even though I like 1.
4 is number 2. All right.
Yeah, I liked 4 a lot at the time.
Okay. I need to play 4.
Yeah.
4. Here's my problem with 4 is I played a ton of it for preview, and really enjoyed it at Game Informer, and then it came out, and I was like, I don't want to replay all that crap I already replayed. I'll do that later, and then later turned into never.
That's how it works.
If I'm being honest,
But you
with
can
myself.
change that, Kyle.
Yeah.
Fix your
Can't be done.
mistakes.
Can't be done.
You're right. It's there with Yoshi's Story.
I'm trying to think of like the PlayStation platformers, of PS1, PS2 era. Like what is the most common agreed upon best entry? Is it 2 by and large for all these? Like Jak and Daxter, Janet, are you going Jak 1 is the primo? Okay.
Yeah.
Crash,
Well, it's for the
yeah.
other ones are so different. Like it wouldn't make any sense to tell someone to go to Jak 2 and then play Jak 1.
Right. Crash is
I think
Crash
2 is
2.
special to Janet and both of me. Maybe I'm speaking for Janet a little bit, but like if I'm going to tell someone you should check out Jak and Daxter, I'm going to tell them to play 1. I'm not going to tell
Yeah.
them.
Right.
Definitely.
Ratchet and Clank, I'm not an expert in. I don't know which one are the first 3 people would vouch for, but like Crash, I'd go Crash 2. Spyro, I'd personally go Spyro 1, but I know Ripto's Rage fans are screaming
Ripto's
out
Rage
there.
is definitely, the better
Okay, so
one.
that's
Even
2.
though I'm starting to question those games a little bit now that I'm not a child. They might not be that interesting.
Spyro?
But I don't know.
Spyro's interesting.
Yeah,
Spyro's
it's like-
fascinating.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him another go. It's nostalgic fun. Like there's so much love for Spyro, but then sometimes you show up and you're like, maybe there was as much here as I thought there was.
Yeah.
The charge feels good though. The charge holds up.
I really, yeah.
A smooth glide too. I'm just like,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
not doing a lot in here, but it's like fun to be in the world. I think.
For that
And
era.
gems
yeah.
are a great thing to collect. Those big shiny
Oh,
classic
float
style
around.
jewels.
Great sound
Yeah.
design too.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's a warm blanket, but sometimes you need a comforter. It's like this blanket's not gonna do it. It's gonna cover me the whole way.
Captain Cobblepot writes in and says, "Hey crew, Panic Studios, they send out a really cool gift if you beat Thank Goodness You're Here." So this needs a little backstory. So they said, should more studios give out prizes for beating their games? So if you beat Thank Goodness You're Here or Arco, they encourage you to write in to Panic's headquarters with the publisher of the game, which is a cool idea. And so Captain Cobblepot here is wondering if more studios should give out prizes for beating the game. I don't know what it...
What
the
are
prize?
the? Yeah,
I can't
look. I beat that game.
Okay, you could write in and you could receive something as a prize physically, but I was sworn to secrecy that I would not reveal what the prize is. But they had like visiting the studio at Panic, they had a whole table of like fan art and letters, and then they had like the prize that they returned back, which is cool to see. But
Wow. And yeah, huh. I guess I feel like since we got the game codes for free, we'd be robbing them blind if we did this.
yeah, that's probably true. We couldn't possibly do that. But yes, Captain Cobblepot says, it was nice to see the passion of the Panic team in your recent MinnMax Spotlight video. And then I swear to God, they wrote this. Parentheses, which you can find on MinnMax's YouTube channel, or you can become a patron of the $10 tier to get 8.5 hours of the MinnMax Spotlight video. Thank you, Captain Cobblepot, for always be plugging. Yeah, so we just put that up on YouTube on Monday. This is the Portland video that we were talking about for a while. Kelsey Loon and I flew out to Portland, Oregon. We had a community meetup that we're plugging on the podcast here. That is in this video, and us going on a hike, checking out a waterfall, a bunch of fun kind of travelogue style stuff. But kind of the star of the show is us visiting Panic, who is a company that's been around since 1997, making Mac software, but then they got into games with publishing Firewatch, and they published Untitled Goose Game. Thank Goodness You're Here, mentioned there. Arco, which we've been plugging as well. But then also they created the Playdate. And so the video is kind of it's Kelsey and I exploring Panic, going through their history. You could call it, Leo, I don't know. I was thinking a lot about kind of the MinnMax Spotlight, which is kind of the new series we're kicking off for visiting studios. And I like doing it this way. I could talk about it forever, so please stop me at some point. But it's like with Game Informer cover stories, we went on so many of those visiting studios, and it just frustrated me because it wasn't capturing the experience. Like we'd fall in love with these studios that we'd visit, but you go back and look at the footage and it's like, it's 10 minutes of an interview about multiplayer mechanics with some harsh lighting, and it was stressful and quiet and blah, And I feel like at a certain point towards the end of my time at Game Informer, I started making videos that were more about the trip themselves, not full travelogues. But I remember we made one with Surreal for like Mortal Kombat 11 and with Jeff Cork for Monster Hunter. And it was just trying to capture that spirit a little bit more of like, hey, we went to Osaka. Let's show some of that footage and also show a little behind the scenes of the studio. And so this MinnMax Spotlight is kind of an extension of that idea of like, can we just film everything, make it available for $10 supporters on Patreon. So that's why there's an 8.5 hour version of this available. But then cut that down to just the funniest or the best or most interesting moments and give you the feeling overall of what is it like to visit a game studio, highlighting the team's passion, all that fun stuff. But Leo, what made me think of you is just thinking about the format, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like the MinnMax Spotlight, it feels like it's in the same wheelhouse as, you know, your video with Kobesoft Joe about Dome King Cabbage. You know, because I think with that one, you're like, it's not quite a documentary, not quite a travelogue. You don't really know what it is. And it's like, oh, I think in retrospect, you know, meaning I put the Dome King Cabbage video in the MinnMax Spotlight playlist because I'm like, it feels like the same wheelhouse of like informative about game development, but then also the fun of a travelogue bundled into one.
Totally. I love that. And I think that's, something special and unique we do.
Yeah.
Like, it's the only way to capture the vibe of it, really. Yeah.
Right.
Can I say my favorite part of that video?
Sure.
The part where I was like, oh, I should go watch the 8.5 hour version of this was just you and Kelsey, but particularly Kelsey, walking around the Retro Expo before it opened. And
Yes.
just seeing Kelsey look at things and know how valuable they were. I was like, I could watch this for 5 hours.
I know. Yeah, that was a crazy example of just like, in my mind, all I was thinking is like, no one else could do this. Like having like Kelsey learn in the video, but then also just being at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, you know, a day before it opened, and we could just walk around the show floor because Kelsey was setting up her Pink Gorilla booth. And like, yeah, Kelsey just added so much to that video overall because she also knows Cable, the co-founder of Panic. She's like sorted through some gaming history stuff in his basement before and stuff like that. So just having like that knowledge and also that passion for, you know, having a cool gaming business, which is kind of the crux of the video, is like, how do you keep a cool company sustainable for so long like Panic? And kind of the lesson is, don't just focus on growth. If you just don't swing too hard and think you're only a success if you keep hiring more and more people, which I think is most companies' flaws, you can keep going for a surprising amount of time. But then also having Kelsey's knowledge of like the handheld space. And, you know, obviously gaming collectibles and history and all that stuff, but specifically she's always loved handheld gaming. So to have her on hand to help unpack the Playdate and the history of the Playdate there was like, oh my God, she made that video so much better. But Kyle, you want some stats on the Playdate that we got on that trip?
How'd you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So they sold somewhere between 70,000 and 100,000 Playdates. They have not made their money back from the Playdate, but they're almost there. They're working on it. It costs over $105 per unit to develop the Playdate. Right now they're selling it for $200, but I think they said that was even before some inflation, so it might be way above $105 for the cost of actually developing these freaky things. 11,000 games have been released for the Playdate so far.
Way more. That number's much higher than I thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of people making stuff, especially in Pulp, which is like their engine for kind of easy to create software out there if you're a first timer. The stereo dock that they teased a long time ago, like over 2 years ago with the Playdate, that's in a phase of we keep getting versions back that suck and it's really janky and we are kind of a prestigious manufacturer. We want this thing to be good and it's not quite there yet. So stay tuned, but no promises type of thing. Then also the backlight, Kyle, I know you're always screaming about with the Playdate. I was surprised. So that's also a case of like, it's not coming anytime soon. If they can find a solution for a backlit Playdate, that'd be great. But they're so in love with that.
They do know that people want a backlit.
They have, believe it or not. You
didn't ask them about that, and they were like, "Oh, what an interesting idea."
Yeah, they've heard that feedback
People
before.
want to play as Zelda? That's weird.
But you know, they talk about how that screen, like they love the quality of that screen so much, and that screen is actually more expensive than just like an LED screen.
Oh, wow.
Which is the weird part. But like that's the weird thing is the tech of that screen to get that with some way to backlight it or front light it, it just doesn't, there's not a elegant way to do it that they found at this point.
Bummer.
Also, they talk about like, you know, Steve Jobs tried to buy Panic to create iTunes back in like 2000, which is a weird bit of history. But then also later on, this isn't in the YouTube cut, but Cable Saucer over there, the co-founder of the studio, he was talking about how he woke up one morning and he got a message on Facebook Messenger about like, hey, we might be interested in buying your studio. We should talk. And the message was from Mark Zuckerberg. And then he went back and he's like, that was a weird thing. And he went back and checked it like years later and it was gone. And he's like, I swear this happened. But it turns out at a certain point, Mark Zuckerberg just had Facebook delete every private message he has ever sent through Facebook himself. So now there's just like no record of this weird thing happening.
There's probably no.
No, it's all good. It's all good. He's a cool guy. So, anyways, yeah, you can check out
specific cultural reckoning that he had that happen during. Probably
it was all good. So, anyways, you can check out that MinnMax spotlight on Panic. Even the sweetest thing is people in the comments who were like, "Oh, I'm not really interested in the Playdate. I don't really know who Panic is, but I watched this and I enjoyed it so much more than I thought." Because hopefully it is moving fast enough and there's enough fascinating little bits of game history in there and just kind of fun with Kelsey and I on a travelogue. Hopefully it pleases all audiences. So thanks for the kind words and the help spreading that thing. That was fun to put together. Travis and Fargo, what is the most low effort Halloween costume you've ever worn? Personally, one year I wrapped my arms in foil and I called myself Burrito Arms. Now, Travis, that is intelligent Halloween costume design.
I like that. I was just remembering my high school costume as Styles from Teen Wolf, which was just sunglasses and writing on a t-shirt, "What are you looking at, Dick Nose?" as his iconic shirt in the film says.
He just hand wrote it.
That's good. That's good.
Have you guys heard like the term like a scene kid, like someone who is okay? I wasn't sure if that was just like a Southeast thing, but I was like, I was like dressing like that a lot in early college, and one time I just bought like a plastic Batman mask, and I was just like, I'm just scene kid Batman. That's my costume. I'm just scene kid Batman.
Was it
the multiverse will
That's
be
my
a big
cat's
thing.
costume this year, basically.
One time,
That's good.
One time I just wanted to be, I was like, my costume is I'm a normal guy, but I have 3 eyes. And so I got like a little fake eye and I put it here. But then I had like bangs. And so I was trick-or-treating and people were just like, "You're trick-or-treating? You're just wearing like a t-shirt." And then I would have to like move my bangs so they could see my 3rd eye.
And then they're horrified. Yeah, there's a classic backwards man of wearing your clothes backwards, I suppose, if you're willing to be. I once went as a Lego guy. I was like, oh, it'll be great because I can just wear like a red sweater and jeans. And then the way I'll do it is it looks exactly like a Lego head if I take like a milk carton and kind of cut it and then spray paint it yellow and kind of put that on my head. And then no one understood that I was a Lego guy. I just looked like a guy wearing a red sweater with half a milk carton on his head. It's no good.
Are you Bart Simpson? What
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's closer, I guess. Alex Swaim writes in and says, PC Gamer recently published their annual Top 100 PC Games list. It's a fun read as always. Out of curiosity, I scrolled through their list to see how many 2024 games made the cut. Maybe you can make a little game out of it. Can you guess the games from 2024 that made it in PC Gamer's top 100 PC games of all time list? There are 3.
Balatro?
Balatro is number 8, which is amazing to see. Great guess.
My work here is done. You can take it away.
Animal Well?
Animal Will number 43. Way to go, Kyle.
Nice.
Wow.
Great. That's this.
Next one was a big hit from earlier this year.
Final Fantasy VII.
Correct.
Rebirth.
No, there is no justice in this world. This one, it had a pocket of getting extremely negative Steam reviews because it made you log in to
Helldivers 2?
Helldivers 2. There we go. They put it as number 14.
A game getting extremely negative Steam reviews will have to be more specific.
They say some other fun facts about PC Gamer's list. Valve has the most games on this list at 5. That's very impressive. And in the honorable mentions, PC Gamer included The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask emulated at 4K 60 on PC. Great pick.
Right.
Well done. Jerry Young wrote in saying, hey, I wanted to follow up on the Gamefly comments from last week. I've used that service since 2012 and it is still incredible. Compared to the price of games, as long as I finish one $70 game every 3 months, I'm saving money by using Gamefly. Keep games as long as you want. And if you don't like it, just send it back. It saved me tons of money over buying games and never finishing them. I strongly recommend the service. Patrick G also wrote in, defending Gamefly in a big way. The cost of games, so basically if they would have, Gamefly, so they played 13 games this year. If they would have bought those games instead of using Gamefly, it would have cost them $487 more, if that math makes sense.
Okay.
I don't get it. Just get Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah, it pays for itself.
That's what they keep telling us, but
Yeah.
they're not saying it loud enough is what I keep going back to.
You know what Gamefly's probably good for is to get, like not building up your backlog, right? Like
Right.
you probably commit to finishing a game. You probably really
Yeah,
I mean, I
I-
had had GameFly for a little just to try it out. I had it 5 years ago, reviewed it then. My number one gripe was it took a long time for games to arrive. But that can improve greatly if you're near a distribution center, which I hear they have some in California. So I do not need more games at this point in my life, but I have considered like revisiting it to see what it's like in the modern era. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good deal. Obviously, there's the con that, of course, everyone talks about of the you got to wait for new games, but if you can wait, it's great now that Redbox is kind of not really a thing anymore or not doing games.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, I think I think you're right in that, like, you would think that having all the movies in the world on streaming services would make it easier to pick a movie. But actually, it's like if you go to a video store and you rent a movie, it's way easier to be like, and that's the one I'm going to watch. And then you go home and watch it versus just like mindlessly being like, I don't know what's here.
Right.
Yeah. There was an Onion article many years ago that was like Netflix now offering a tier where you can just scroll. Like you don't actually are able to watch anything. Which
Nice.
Every time I'm in that moment where we're like, should we watch this? Nah, should we watch this? I think about that Onion article.
That's because there's truth in that art. Galaxy's writes in and says, hey, MinnMax crew, do you think there's a reference to that game, Galaxy?
Yeah,
It's spelled differently, but yeah. Anyways, I say, hey, MinnMax crew, I got a silly hypothetical for y'all. And full disclosure, no one else wanted me to ask this question, but I read this question and I said, this is such a fun one. I'm going to ram it in everybody's throats. So I got a silly hypothetical for y'all. Imagine if every single game studio was wiped out in some catastrophic event, but we were given the chance to save 5 of them to rebuild the entire gaming landscape with.
I feel like every game development studio is getting wiped out in a catastrophic event.
Give it 2 years.
Which 5 studios would you choose to keep to reimagine how humanity would rebuild the culture of gaming? Now, this is a goddamn question. So
Okay,
smart.
so it's like
Naughty Dog.
Like, can you say
I
like
know people are gonna get mad.
No,
Everyone get a game.
absolutely not.
I would say it's tough. Okay, Kyle, what are you saying?
This is
Well,
my
it's
answer.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Can you say Nintendo, or do you need to get more specific? That do I need
I
to
think
say
you
like
do need to
the
get more
Zelda?
specific.
I think you have to zoom in. Let's say like you can say Nintendo's Tokyo team, like the Mario team, the Zelda team, like obviously
Okay,
it'd be WarioWare team. We got to keep them around for rebuilding the sake of gaming in the future. Put them in the bomb shelter.
I mean, I guess, but like, if so like, I want the Zelda team, right? But am I being selfish because I just want to make sure there's more Zelda, or do I want to make sure that they are influencing every video game for the rest of time starting
No,
today?
I think that's a
you know?
win-win.
I
I
don't
think so. Just Zelda team is going to be the answer. Now, Grezzo, I'm sorry, they're outside of the blast doors. So
That's
the
okay.
top-down
know. Tears of
Zelda.
the Kingdom studio.
Okay.
This is kind of a weird one, but id. I feel like just from like a technical perspective, I think of like id being such a weirdly important studio.
Okay.
So maybe I'm thinking, like 90s id versus now, but still, it's like if you got 5 to rebuild the world, I want one with some like freaking graphics geniuses on that team.
Okay. Now, Janet, we shouldn't poo-poo. We shouldn't nay. Let's hear Naughty Dog out. Let's think about it. If we were rebuilding gaming culture with Naughty Dog.
I knew when I said it that no one would like it because it's like, oh, like the Sony AAA drivel. Sue me. I think they make good games.
It's just one game every 8 years.
Games.
That's the thing.
Yes, what?
Not optimized.
I mean, if it's
We have
really
Zelda
that,
team.
but then we're just what?
The Zelda team is the same cadence as Naughty Dog.
It's true.
Yeah, but everyone likes Zelda more than they like Naughty Dog. Like that's just fact. Like let's not pretend, But I think
And there are
they've
like
made
more interesting games.
a big stamp. I think if not Naughty Dog, I would pick another one that has made something like that, like Sony Santa Monica. But I think Naughty Dog has a more diverse portfolio. They've done the 3D platformer stuff with Jak and Daxter. They did the zombie stuff with Last. I think as much as you may be like, oh, like what a boring, dry answer, I feel like when you look back on what gaming has been for the last several decades, you often bring up Naughty Dog.
Of course.
For better or for worse. And I feel like if we're rebuilding, I would put Naughty Dog in there. Maybe
That's
I'm
a
rebuilding the same stuff we
really-
already have. But
That brings up an interesting question because is it the studio in terms of the people that are there right now?
I think so. It's
because
just,
most of the people who did that cool Naughty Dog stuff did not stay at that studio.
I mean, we say the cool Naughty Dog stuff. We're acting like we don't like The Last of Us on this podcast. Like, did we all
Yeah,
forget
like
how good Last of Us Part 2 was? Like,
I mean,
I'm confused.
a lot of the people who made The Last of Us Part 1 are no longer at Naughty Dog.
yeah.
I'd like to see the numbers on that, but yeah, certainly like Bruce Straley and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I'll swap them for Sony Santa Monica if people are feeling thrown away about it.
I hear you. Here's why
I'm putting
I
a
pause.
basic AAA thing in there. That's me. That's just me and my list, you know?
Doesn't id with Doom get that? I just feel like if we're rebuilding the gaming landscape, it seems like the problem we're running into a fair bit now, and I understand, I like these games too, but the problem that we're running into in a big way is these games, the budgets are getting bigger and bigger, development time is spread out more and more and more, and I feel like if we have a chance to rebuild the entire game industry, like, if we could just nip that in the bud of people taking 10 years to develop this huge game.
Oh,
that's
we just go all indie? Just pick 5 indie studios?
Yeah, can
that
we
are
say
like,
UFO soft?
Oh, okay.
I mean, honestly, we want a studio who has done a lot of different things, and they've done all those different things really well. Which,
but also they are prepared to keep.
Supergiant is a good option.
Supergiant, I think, is a
lot. You want
lot.
diversity. You want different genres.
Yep.
You know,
I think Supergiant is absolutely in there.
True.
I mean, on the diversity front, I mean, if we're rebuilding everything, we're going to be waiting a long time, even between id and Zelda and Supergiant. Do we put like a strange scaffold in there so we could have a new game every 3 months or whatever the hell?
every 2 seconds,
a good idea.
yeah.
Okay.
Like if they released those UFO 50 games as they were done, maybe we would have got one every 3 months.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
FromSoft,
yeah.
Ray Luaza said in the chat, does seem like an obvious answer. My version of Naughty Dog is what is Kojima's actual studio?
Kojima Productions.
now?
Kojima Productions?
Yeah.
It's like the seniority of people there that like so many
Yeah.
of those people have been working with Kojima for so long that it's like industry knowledge.
Yeah.
But like it's if it remains Kojima Studios, then you're only getting Kojima games, which doesn't do much for the gaming landscape writ large.
I
should
feel
probably get EA Orlando in there to keep Madden rolling.
well,
you know?
that
I was
is
thinking of EA. I'm not gonna lie, I was genuinely thinking of EA. You got some stuff with EA Originals, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but if
I
it's
don't
just
know.
one studio, we can't just say
maybe
all
then
of
y'all would
EA.
finally play EAFC. You know, we could build this is society as we want to see it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
And you got to think they're
We
not
have a
just
game
going to
every
keep
year.
doing.
That's true.
Right.
That's not
They're
bad.
not going to keep doing automatically what they've been doing. Maybe depending on the studio, it's like, oh, this is our chance to like diversify,
up.
and any game we make will have more attention on it. So maybe a big studio with a lot of people would be good for that, and certainly would want one that isn't married to a platform. Probably.
yeah. If we get Ubisoft, we could still dance. There's that.
Ooh,
Assuming
we
that
could dance
the
every
carries over.
year.
If you don't, you cannot.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
honestly-
no, dancing's outlawed.
Yeah, Ubisoft Montreal, would that be kind of the big umbrella? We could still get some Assassin's Creed, still get some Just Dance in there. That's not bad. There is
Just
a
like
gap.
add some time to cook. Like this could be like who they could be. You know, it's like a new system. Like we're re-rolling for everybody.
All the
All the
talented
good
developers
studios
everywhere
are
else
bad, and all
are
the bad studios are good.
right.
I mean, we have a big gap. We are not saving any PC smarties. Should we throw in like a Firaxis? Keep them around?
Matt Dabrowski, the solo dev on Streets of Rogue 2, should probably be one of the 5.
Okay.
Can
That's
he
only
just be
fair.
hired by Ubisoft and then be
Okay.
preserved in that?
Okay.
Siloed
Watch
off.
Dogs Legion for us. Just redo this one.
Okay, so we got Zelda Team, id, Supergiant, Strange Scaffold from Software, EA Sports Team.
Wait, did we say From Software, or did they just kind of that we just all assumed that they were?
Well,
Yeah, these
Jacob
are just
mentioned it.
ideas that have been.
Okay, we don't have to lock it in.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage 2 creator, Streets of Rogue 2 creator, I should say, and Firaxis.
I
Yeah.
mentioned Naughty Dog, surprising, but
Okay, I'll write down Naughty Dog on the list. I'll write down
I mean,
Naughty
Ben
Dog on the
named
list.
all the other ones, but my answer. It's all good.
I just
It's all
feel
good,
like,
don't worry about it.
again, I'm not trying to bash Naughty Dog. I love Naughty Dog's games, but if
Oh,
we're
God forbid, I
rebuilding,
don't want to play Elden Ring. You know, it's like, geez.
if we're rebuilding gaming culture and society and development, I feel like the Naughty Dog mold is one that'd be like, let's try moving forward without that model anymore.
Okay.
Oh, we'll just get there
Speaking of
slower.
big hole that we're leaving out, Capcom.
Right.
Like
Oh, damn it.
just
You gotta
that's
choose a
so
team. You gotta
many
choose a team.
genres represented.
But we're going into the like with what I said with Nintendo.
Right. It's like what
Yeah.
Capcom.
We got to focus in. You know, we want the
the
Monster
Street
Hunter
Fighter
team in there.
Capcom versus the Resident Evil Capcom.
Path of the Goddess, Capcom.
Just the RE engine
Yes.
team. You know,
RE Engine developer, like the tech support team for
yeah,
RE Engine.
just the team that manages the RE engine.
Right. That's good. Jacob, did I tell you a little juicy tidbit about Naughty Dog's next game?
No.
I learned
the
about
space
this.
thing,
I
right?
think Jacob's made it clear that he does not care about
No,
Naughty
I
Dog,
wanna know.
So you tell us, but don't tell Jacob.
Yeah, Mr. Scoffing at Naughty Dog a mere minutes ago. I heard from somebody very in the know who worked on the game that they're like, Jesus Christ. The tone was like, you are all not ready for how amazing this thing is going to be. And the tone was, I'm not going to say the game that they referenced to compare it to because I don't want people to be like, MinnMax said it was going to be exactly like this. But they compared it to a game with a
They're in the
lot.
CMS already, Ben. It's too late.
Right. But they compared it to a game with a lot of player freedom of like, did you like that game? And I said, yes. And they said, well, there you go. It's going to be good.
I thought the direction you were going when he said Jesus Christ was like, oh, something rotten season 5. You know, Jesus Christ, you'll never see heads explode like this in a video game.
No, I don't know. I'm super, super, super curious. Obviously, I was curious before, but after hearing this developer be like,
Was it Hitman?
It's not Hitman. Sorry, it's not Hitman 4 that they're making. I apologize, Leo.
Well, the comparison.
No, it wasn't Hitman. Mighty Ethan writes in to say, hey, all, I'm writing in with a better quest goal. Learn Japanese. I've always wanted to, and I finally had the realization that I ain't getting any younger. So if I'm going to do it, I need to do it. I've started with Duolingo, and my mere concrete/immediate goal is to do it 30 minutes a day. I'm 14 days in, and so far so good. Hopefully in a few years, I'll be able to play Japanese games untranslated. Wish me luck. Good luck, Mighty Ethan. Good on you. Good challenge for you. Let's see. Adam Hood says Fable, Doom, Uncharted, Dredge, Stray, Concord. At one point, these were purely words. But now they're names of games with varying success. What's your favorite game name that's, quote, just a word? And what is a word that you think has the gravitas to become its own game?
Doom is so good.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like
right.
it's just so solid.
Yeah, and you remember what that's
It
from,
showed
right?
its value once again.
That's right. It's from The Color
it's crazy
of Money.
to me that I always used to just use the word peglin in sentences, but now it has this whole new
What Halo is one for me.
Okay, yeah,
I think
that's a great one.
intriguing. And then when we were like, Halo, what is that? And then you start the game and it's like a giant ring in space, and you're like, what is this? You know, I think that's a really good name
Right.
for sure.
for a sci-fi shooter. Halo.
Control.
Control's good, yeah.
Another great one, yeah.
Hard to Google that one.
Yeah, you are adding game to the end of that in your
Yes,
time.
you are.
But you know what? What was I doing at that time? You know, how much time was it taking me?
Incognito, I just searched the word control. Control video game popped up on the right.
Hey.
Okay.
Incognito.
One
Yeah,
step closer.
the game itself brought it down, but I did like the confidence of when BioWare just called their game Anthem. Like, that is kind of a cool, weird, unique word for a game. I like it.
It is. And the explanation was good too, right?
They were the echoes of the Anthem of Creation.
Yeah. I like that. It's no
Is this
unknown
Forspoken
9 awakening.
count?
For
If
spoken.
it's spelled differently, I think it does have an extra E in there.
Does it? I think it's, is it,
What was the word?
is
you said,
Forspoken a word?
Forspoken?
Forspoken.
Yeah, Forspoken. No, it's
No
actually
E
spelled
in
the
the game
same.
title, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's spelled the
Okay.
same. Yeah. To attract or fascinate, enchant.
You know, to cast a
Cast
spell
a
over.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
the
I do
Scrabble
pull the
dictionaries.
definition to double check. Obviously, naturally.
That's good.
The number of pieces of media, high quality pieces of media called Inside is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That I love, like, inside the game and inside the Bo Burnham special, and there's like a very famous movie called Inside, and it's like there are a lot of things, and they're all critically very well regarded.
Yeah, it's
New
like a
Deepest Dive?
recent Willem Dafoe movie, right? Isn't there called Inside, I think?
Yes, and that's not even the one that I was thinking of. There's I don't know. It's one that Blake's always bringing up. I don't know what it is.
An obscure movie from Blake Hester.
Oh, be damned.
Yeah, and it's French, and it's probably incredibly violent.
I bet back in the
Blake.
Snake.
Snake is good. Snake is good. Yeah. Ray Lawaza backstage pass chat says flower. Like, yeah,
Flower's
that's
really
good for his
cool, yeah.
conquering.
Journey.
Journey.
Name for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Speaking of flowers.
Sky. Let's just keep going.
Umbrella.
We gotta go
Umbrella.
A through Z with these and see if we can really just fill the whole
yeah.
thing.
Oh God. Yeah. What about the weird
one,
one?
Arco?
Plus. Yeah, Arco. Yeah.
Balatro.
Well, that's not. Doesn't fit as much as this thing. But yes, one word.
Battlefield.
Ooh, Arms is a good
Batman.
one. Yes, Chan. Good one for Arms kicking it off. That's
Yeah,
great.
Arms. Yeah.
We really should do this.
Right now?
Arms low-key iconic
Crash
as a
Bandicoot.
name because it's like, remember Arms?
Mhm.
Like, yeah.
They
Yeah.
call
And it's like that the game is, or the name is kind of the most memorable part of it.
They made
Yeah,
Arms.
They made a
You
game
know,
called
and it's like-
Arms.
It's Arms and then they have arms. Like, it's just,
It was right there.
yeah,
It's
clear
smart.
as day.
Deuterado writes in and says, "Hey, do you all wear deodorant if you're not planning on leaving the house?" Quick question, Deuterado. I do,
Yes.
but I think I want to become the person who doesn't.
Wow.
No, you don't.
Speak
And
of
you
my
have a
own thing,
family now.
I have a family. I'm not a smelly guy. I dare any of
This
you
question
all.
scared me. I didn't thumbs it up because I was scared of the answers. that
I just
y'all
feel like
would
I could save half my deodorant stick for the days where I'm just sitting around by myself. They're
And those savings are up to upwards of $1 a year.
right.
College fun stuff right there for sure.
Yeah. But also, it's the hassle of having to go buy more deodorant. And you can only buy one stick of deodorant at a time. You can't lump it in with other groceries and stuff. You know. How it
They
goes.
expire
that
so
big cart.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think I can get away with it. I don't think anyone would complain.
I mean, the only barometer you have for judgment is the people in your life and your immediate
Right.
surroundings. If they don't care, you're good.
My kid
That's
can
how I
barely
do it.
talk. My wife loves me. I think I'm set.
I think there are things that you shouldn't make decisions. You know, like if I don't think of myself as like deciding to put on deodorant, and I don't want to start thinking about that in the same way that I don't want to like decide if I brush my teeth.
Okay.
That's why you'll be a mind prisoner forever, Jacob.
I'm a sheeple.
No one else is going to join me on this crusade? Are you all wear deodorant every day?
Pro
No-
deodorant,
Of
absolutely.
course, yeah.
Mostly.
Okay.
Sometimes reapplication as well if needed.
Reapplication. Wow.
Yeah, if I need to.
How do you refer to deodorant scent? If you're like, hey, get me this blank deodorant from the store. Like what word do
Stick.
you use there? Stick?
Stick a deodorant.
I just say a deodorant.
But like if you're gonna define exactly what kind though.
Cool Sport Rush.
You're okay, so like okay.
It's was it Dove clinical strength or whatever, or secret clinical strength? Yeah, it's the only one I get. Gel
Secret
kind.
clinical
That's it.
strength.
Oh,
I had
Yeah.
a friend
Hell yeah.
once refer
It works
to it
really
as,
well.
I had a friend refer to it once
For
as
me.
the flavor.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you
Oh,
mean.
the flavor.
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
What
don't
an
think that's
image.
wrong, but I know it's not right.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly it's like flavor of chapstick, you know, which is like something that you
Right.
shouldn't eat. But I'm
Yeah.
still like, well, what the flavor is?
I would say
Yeah,
flavor
yeah.
of candle. I'd be an idiot, but I would do it.
Yeah.
I guess it's scent, I guess, but
I feel like
I mean,
once every
McGreevy
couple
in
of
the chat
weeks.
says I say flavor, so
There we go.
and they spelled it with a U, so you know they're smart.
I feel like every 2 or 3 weeks I have a stinky day where I don't take a shower or use deodorant.
There we go. Finally.
Just for being myself, and because it makes my cat obsessed with me.
Oh, okay.
Doctor's always
getting
licking my
weird.
armpits. And
Oh,
stuff. It's cute.
okay. I don't
you
care
got a
for
freak cat
this.
too? Yeah.
This
Our cat
is-
smells shoes. It's weird. I'm like, don't be weird.
Ugh.
Don't make it weird.
You people are sick. And by that I mean you animals are sick people.
Well, if you quit your deodorant, be ready for stray cats flying all over you.
Stray cat magnet.
All right. What do you like for question of the week here? I like the words that have become video game words. That's fun. Tacoma style.
5 Studios was fun. Was a good talker.
Okay.
Yeah, even though
Yeah.
none of us thumbs it up.
I thought that was a cool one. I like the songs, the Spotify thing. That was a conversational beast.
The costumes was cute too. It was
Costumes
fun
is
hearing
cute?
your guys' costumes.
Costumes is cute.
I liked one word.
I
It made me think about titles.
yeah.
It made me think for a change, which I could use.
I was
Indica,
just
late ad for that.
right. I was just so intoxicated by that idea of rebuilding the game industry from 5 Stews. I think that's such a fun idea that I can't overlook it. But maybe I'm out on a limb.
Words.
It was fun, but the
Wow.
words was cool.
Okay. All right.
And it's what reunited us.
All right.
After I found out everyone hates Naughty Dog.
I
Like, I'm like,
I
wow.
don't hate Naughty Dog. I
My
just don't want that
bad.
development model. It's not sustainable. Adam Hood, congratulations. There we go. You just won question of the week, and you will get that
They can still
prize thanks to I Am 8-Bit. Now it is time for something that we personally like to call Get a Load of This. Hey, get a load of this. I'll go first because I think it's super embarrassing, especially with 4 video editors on the call. It was literally this weekend that I learned that in Adobe Premiere, there's a little full screen button up by the program window. And as you're editing, you can watch your videos in full screen. I have been editing videos for decades and in Premiere for at least 1 decade. And I have never used that before. I accidentally clicked it and I said, what is this? I can have a full screen preview easily? It freaked me out on the level of like, how many basic things do I not know about the software I use every day? It's scary.
Yeah. I think the tilde key is a shortcut for that too. If you click on the monitor
Okay,
thing.
Even better.
That's what I was going to ask. If
Even
that's
better.
if that's what you're doing is like pressing the tilde key. Yeah,
That's even better. That's perfect. It's stupid that I didn't know
I'm
that.
so scared of people watching me video edit for that reason of
Right.
I'm doing something and they'll tell me a shortcut and I'll see 400 hours of my life that I've spent like adjusting this thing manually that I could have not, and just like it would be better for me, but I don't want to know.
Yeah,
the
right.
shame isn't worth it.
I just got the hang of you copy and then you can paste attributes.
Right.
Like
Yep.
that's kind of a recent discovery for me,
There
which
you
is
go.
like I would go into the position and scale and just sometimes I'll just take a picture. Like, let me apply these to a couple more. But yeah, it was rough. But look, I've learned. I know I've fixed my ways.
Okay, great.
I just sent to Hanson this week as that I discovered was in Photoshop when you drag an image in and you try to select the head and delete everything else, and it says you have to rasterize the image first, and there's no button there to just rasterize the goddamn image, and you have to right click the layer and rasterize it. You can go into preferences and say don't import things as smart objects, and they're immediately editable, and I don't have to do that anymore. And that was been doing that for years and years.
Wow. Nice.
Get a load of this. The TV show Detroiters, the Tim Robinson TV show Detroiters, was supposed to be added to Netflix yesterday, and they had like promoted it, and I was like excited about it because I've only watched some of that show, and then it just didn't upload, and Netflix deleted all their tweets about it being added to Netflix, and all the Tim Robinson stans, me included, are like very mad in comedic ways. But it's just like up until the day that it was supposed to come out, they were like, get ready, Detroiter's going to be on Netflix. And then it just wasn't.
Weird.
No explanation.
weird.
No
Nope,
fault.
no explanation from Netflix. And they deleted their tweets saying that it would be coming to Netflix.
Oh my
It's
god.
Comedy Central, which is on Paramount Plus by default, so I have to imagine it's something that fell through between.
Yeah, because
rival
it
streamers.
has been on Paramount Plus, and I watched some of it when I had a week-long Paramount Plus trial, but I'm not about to subscribe to Paramount Plus for just that and pretending to want to watch the Halo TV show.
Get a load of this. Have you ever tried really spanking your cat on the ass? They might like it.
Excuse me.
I've had my dear cat doctor for 8 years, and I was at a friend's, and they were like, "Yeah, my cat won't eat unless I spank his ass to comfort him." And I was like, "They like that?" And so I started spanking doctor, and he gives me a look at first where he's like, "What is this? What's going on here?" And now he loves it, and it calms him right
Yeah, that
down,
is
makes
true.
him pop right down.
Well,
So
congratulations.
hitting the flank, open hand,
Wow.
go crazy on it.
Backstage passers, enjoy that clip because that's not making air.
Try at your own risk because your cat might not like that, and then you will suffer the consequences.
True.
Hey, get a load of this. There's this woman on TikTok. Her name is Emily Harpist, and she plays the harp. She's a very talented harp player, and she's a big video game fan, and she plays a lot of video game music on the harp and all this kind of stuff. And she did a little video recently where she went and met with the Animal Well creator, Billy Basso.
Yeah.
think is his
I
name.
saw this,
Janet's
Kyle.
nodding.
I
Oh
saw
my
this
God.
clip too.
Yeah.
Big mouth.
And in that game, there's all these like animals that are like making noises at you. Like there's this whale that will sort of just, and they're not English or anything. But what she had him talk through was like how he got those sound effects. And what it was him talking, and then he would really put a lot of effects and stuff on it. But he took all the effects off just to share what he was doing. And so he shared his recording of himself voicing the whale, and it's just really funny because it's him just going like, "Hello, hi there." What you doing? And it's really funny and interesting and cool. So
Like
check that out.
it could not be any less someone doing a voice. Like he's not even trying to go like hello. It's just
Yeah.
hello.
I'm a whale.
Yeah. It's very cute, very wholesome. Get a load of this. The Analog 3D just got
Yeah,
announced.
crazy.
So it's like the N64 analog. So how there's like the Analog Pocket, that for the N64 can play the cartridges, better visuals, can plug it into your TV easily, a bunch of other, bells and whistles. I think I don't know if it's like a collaboration, but they have the 8-bit Do controller that can sync up to it. Can also use original like hardware accessories. So yeah, super cool for people that I think want, what analog kind of provides, which is you want to engage with the physical cartridge software part, but you want to make the hardware part easier to integrate into your more modern lifestyle. It provides that. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. Get a lot of this from the MinnMax community. They have a Discord channel sharing a ton of stuff all day, every day. It's fantastic. Brandon shared the Sakurai video. He's winding down his YouTube channel. I think he has like one more special video coming up. But he had a video recently that was all about just his thoughts on Iwata, which was very sweet. And yeah, there's a little tidbit in there where he said that Iwata is the person who came up with the idea for adding the brothers word to the Smash title. And the logic was, he's like, we need something in that Smash Brothers or the Super Smash title to convey that like they're fighting, but ultimately they get along and they'll kind of be long-term friends afterwards. And so brothers conveys the level of fighting, obviously, that you would have in Smash.
That video is like in miniature the Miyazaki documentary, in that there are lines in that video where Sakurai is just like, yeah, I would say Iwata was the person who understood me best,
right?
And it's just like you like start crying, like, oh my god.
Yep, as the little animations from the Sakurai video are just like at a desk, hands on fire, like it's some sort of idle game. Well, hey, that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Thanks, everybody, for watching, listening, sharing, all that fun stuff. If you've enjoyed MinnMax's content over the past 5 years or recently, we've kind of been cranking out a lot of stuff recently. So if you are seeing that, you appreciate any of it, you can jump in if you like it. And if it works for you at even the $2 tier, 5 for 5, everybody. Let's hit 5,000 for the 5th anniversary of MinnMax. We have codes for Arco on Steam available for everybody until we hit 5,035 Patreon supporters. So please jump in there and make it possible. Otherwise, you can check out the deepest dive on Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Kyle hosted the grand finale for that. That's up on YouTube and in the bonus podcast feed if you're a $5 supporter. Thank you, Kyle. Did you have a good time with that chat?
Yeah, it was good. I like that game, turns out.
Hell yeah. I like to hear it. A reminder, we have Trivia Tower coming up on Monday. You can compete on behalf of MinnMax or Easy Allies if you support either of us on Patreon, so you can jump in there. Also, in the same podcast feed as The Deepest Dive, we have Bonus Pod each and every week. Haley hosts a fantastic show that's the companion show to the MinnMax Show. And this week, by God, we had a full crew. We had Janet, we had Jacob, and we had Serial Vasquez joining on that. And it was one of my favorite episodes. It was all about consulting in the video game industry. Basically everything they can say about how consulting works in the video game industry, because it's very secretive. And it seems like Jacob in particular, you're frustrated by how many misconceptions are out there about consulting, because it was revealed you're consulting on Silent Hill 2, the remake, along with Serial Vasquez. So you're able to talk about as much as you can there, but it was very insightful. I learned a lot from that episode of Bonus Pod, so thanks for doing that, y'all.
I mean, and even talking to Janet, who's had like a very different experience than me with it. And so even like consultants don't talk to each other, and so we don't know what each other do.
Right. Yeah, it's confusing. But thanks to Haley for hosting that Bonus Pod. It's a fun episode. You can unlock it there. Also, shout out reminder, we have the Wall of Heroes tier. At the $50 tier on Patreon, you can choose to put any image rotating throughout every MinnMax video throughout the entire month. We did the math, and that results in over 1 million impressions for whatever image you want on there. A picture of your pet, not spanking it, but just a cute picture of your pet, picture of your face, picture of your company, picture of your indie game, whatever you want to promote. And there you can jump in there and do it for $50 for over 1 million impressions. Like little behind the scenes. Where was it, Leo? Is it just for playing Giant Scrabble or something? You were talking about like, Wall of Heroes is so cool. I'm amazed more people don't do it. Like it's such a good opportunity.
We were driving there.
Right. Yeah.
I was amazed more people don't rip it off because of how good of an idea it is.
I agree. Although we hope other people don't rip it off and that other people jump in and get their stuff seen over 1 million times for only $50.
But how can we blame you if you rip it off?
That's exactly it. So thanks everybody for jumping at that $50 tier. You can upgrade and put your image up there throughout the entire month of November if you like. But that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Thank you so much for watching, listening, all that fun stuff. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, everybody else. Till next time, be good, have fun, let's go.